Chapter 207. Zhongjiu is currently cultivating with all his might and is currently in seclusion. It's naturally difficult for our Li family to search for the ruins. Sect Master, since you've come personally, we'll make things clear. Our Li family will take 30% of the profits. We don't want the Yuan arts, but we hope that Sect Master will allow us to make a copy of the Yuan skills and pill formulas. Li Tianqing said. His words were very clear. The Li family was the one who discovered the ruins. At the same time, the Li family won't participate in the search, but they've given the right to search to the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. They would only take 30% of the profits. Moreover, they didn't need the Yuan arts. After all, the Li family had enough Yuan arts. They shouldn't bite off more than they could chew. After all, they weren't a large sect. This set of Yuan arts could become the inheritance this time, so it was relatively important. Therefore, the Fog Snow Alchemy sect had a great need for it. If they could find this high-grade Yuan arts, they could even create glory for the sect. 30%, isn't it a little too high? Du Shuangjiang, the peak master of the Fierce Peak, said in a deep voice. He stared at Li Tianqing with a trace of unfriendliness. Although it was impossible to make a move directly, it wasn't impossible to frighten him a little. Chu Aoran didn't speak, and neither did the Fog Snow Alchemy sect's disciples. They knew that this was the time to negotiate the interests of the sect. Although Lin Sung and the others were biased towards the Li family, they couldn't stand on the wrong side and make it too obvious. Letting the sect master haggle the price was naturally not something to be proud of. Therefore, the most suitable person to haggle was the peak master of the Li family, Du Shuangjiang, who had never appeared and had never interacted with the Li family. The joint mining was facilitated by Qin Lai, Lin Sung, and the others. They could only play the role of a buffer. No matter which side they sided with, it wasn't a good thing for them. Therefore, when Peak Master Du Shuangjiang haggled, they could only stand aside and not make a sound. Li Tianqing seemed to have expected this. I wonder what Peak Master Du thinks. 20%. Du Shuangjiang said without the slightest hesitation or delay. This number was already very clear and very suitable. 20% is too low. Elder Li Taishu couldn't help but say. Even Yuan Zhu and the others had given up on it because there was no need to fight for it. Li Tianqing raised his hand. Sure, it's our honor to be able to work with you, Grandmaster. 20% isn't much, but it's not little either. Li Tianqing agreed readily. Du Shuangjiang was stunned at first. Obviously, he didn't expect Li Tianqing to agree so quickly. After all, this simple request could involve hundreds of millions of resources. Du Shuangjiang was impressed by Li Tianqing's open-mindedness. Li Tianqing was a bold and insightful person. Most people were like this. If you let them take advantage of you, they would think that you were magnanimous. If he wanted to take advantage of you in the future, he would be embarrassed. Chu Aoran's face also revealed a brilliant smile. Even though they were the ones who bore the risk this time. However, they were confident that they could retrieve the item safely. If they didn't even have the ability to do so, they might as well be buried inside. But I have a small request. Li Tianqing continued. Patriarch Li, please speak. Chu Aoran said. In the future, when the sect recruits disciples every year, please allocate a few more to our Li family. Li Tianqing said. Chu Aoran originally thought that Li Tianqing was going to say something, but when he heard this, the smile on his face became even wider. In the future, there will be 7 people from each of the 3 peaks. Each of the 3 main peaks of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect could recruit 7 people. That meant that a total of 21 disciples of the Li family could join the sect. This was something that made people excited. After all, the most powerful sect within 1,000 miles was the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. Although the Li family also imparted martial arts, it wasn't as direct and professional as the sect. Thank you, Grandmaster. Li Tianqing was also very happy. These disciples of the Li family weren't without talent, but they didn't have the opportunity. In this small sunset city, even in soaring cloud city, it would be difficult for them to make a difference. They had to receive more advanced education in order to be able to display their strengths. This was the most important thing. In this way, in less than 3 years, the overall level of the Li family would improve. When that time came, they wouldn't even be able to produce a few Yuan master experts. This was really too shabby for a family. Excuse me, is this the Li family's camp in Sunset City? Just as Li Tianqing, Chu Aoran, and the others were all smiling and discussing happily, a voice suddenly sounded. An inquiring voice came from outside the house. Although the voice was soft, it was full of energy. Hearing this voice, Chu Aoran was the first to turn his head and saw 3 figures standing outside the tent. The 3 of them were slightly dusty, but the expressions on their faces were extremely determined. Their gazes were also not ordinary. A dangerous aura instantly filled the tent. Similarly, Luo Sha and the others, who had rushed from Northern Medicine City to Sunset City, and then from Sunset City to Soaring Cloud City, also placed their attention on Chu Aoran. Qin Lai and the others had seen him before, so it wasn't a big deal. However, when they saw Chu Aoran and Du Shuangjiang, the 3 of them clearly felt a threatening aura being released. The man in the dark green robe was actually a Sky Origin ancestor powerhouse. There was actually such an expert in the Li family. Furthermore, before they had come, they had also seen a peak level 3 Yuan beast in the courtyard of the Li family in Sunset City. With such strength, there was no need for them to hide in such a small place. They could even achieve something in Northern Medicine City. With the support of an ancestor origin expert, they would definitely be able to soar into the sky like a dragon. I am the head of the Li family, Li Tianqing. Who are you? Li Tianqing could clearly feel that the aura of these people was extraordinary. However, with Chu Aoran and the others here, there was naturally no need for them. If they really wanted to do something, Chu Aoran and the others wouldn't just stand by and do nothing. After all, the price had just been negotiated. I am Luo Sha. This is Chang He and Luo Ri. The 3 of us are here to join the Li family, Li Zongjiu. They were indeed people of the pugilistic world. Even though they were originally bandits, they still had the aura of a bandit. When they spoke, they were also straightforward. On the way here, Chu Aoran had also heard about Northern Medicine City from Lin Song. Now that he saw that these 3 people had actually come to join the Li family, he was shocked. He was even more shocked. It seemed that Li Zongjiu's methods were not simple. He had subdued these 3 experts with just a wave of his hand. The strength of these 3 people were all at the level of a level 9 origin general. With these 3 experts, who in this small flying cloud city would be able to stop them? Even the Fog Snow Elixir sect had to be wary of the Li family. This was because Qin Lai had previously said that Li Zongjiu had killed the city lord of Northern Medicine City, Ao Yong, who was at the peak of the origin general level. Although Li Zongjiu's cultivation was not strong now, he had many tricks up his sleeves. The 3 of you, please come in first. Zongjiu is still in seclusion. Please wait for a while. I will send someone to inform him. Li Tianqing said. Patriarch, there is no need. We will just wait here. There is no need to disturb the young master. Although they were not really sure yet, the 3 of them had already entered a state of mind. What they wanted was nothing more than to live. No matter who they followed, it was all the same. The man, Chang He, looked at Li Tianqing and exchanged glances with Luo Sha beside him. The appearance of Chu Aoran and the others was outside of their plan. According to their plan, they would stay with the Li family temporarily and stabilize Li Zongjiu. When the time was right, they would directly fight to the death with Li Zongjiu. They did not believe that Li Zongjiu would not submit. In terms of ruthlessness, although Li Zongjiu was ruthless, he was not as good as them. They had many tricks up their sleeves. Chapter 208. Although the arrival of Luo Sha and the others had caused some ripples, there had to be some changes in their thoughts after all. Even Chu Aoran was considering if he should view the Li family on a higher level. The arrival of 3 grade 9 prime general experts was indeed a problem that was hard to ignore. However, the most important thing now was to go to the ruins and search. If there were any good things, they could not wait. The Li family did not send anyone there, but only sent someone to guard the entrance of the cave. Luo Sha and the rest, who had just arrived, did not know about this. They just waited in the tent for Li Zongjiu to appear. Li Zongjiu stabilized his prime general aura. With the help of the violent yuan power in his body, he also refined some elixirs. These elixirs were usually used to replenish and increase yuan power, and to aid in cultivation. When Li Zongjiu appeared in front of the 3 of them, Luo Sha and the rest quickly stood up. When the 3 of them arrived, Li Zongjiu had already sensed them. Their every move was under Li Zongjiu's surveillance. The 3 of us are here to seek refuge with the young lord. How's the situation in Northern Medicine City? Li Zongjiu asked. Northern Medicine City had lost the Alliance Master of Northern Medicine Tower, and then a city lord. This must be a disaster. The city lord's death has been reported, but we came here directly instead of returning to the city lord mansion. Ao Yong was dead, so they naturally could not show up. Otherwise, they would definitely be arrested. The city lord was dead, but they were not. They could also directly report Li Zongjiu, but that would not do them any good. Who knows, he might get into even bigger trouble. Therefore, after making up their minds, they directly came to Luoxia City. It seemed that this was the only path they could take. No matter what it was, it would only lead to death. The new city lord will arrive in 2 days and will do his best to investigate the cause of Ao Yong's death. Don't worry, young lord, we have already erased all traces. Luo Sha said. They were naturally good at destroying corpses and evidence. They had done this many times over the years. But what? Li Zongjiu looked at Luo Sha. Luo Sha wanted to say something but hesitated, as if he didn't know if he should say it. It's just that we've heard that the new city lord is a young man. Young man? That person's name is Zhang Yu. He's 25 years old, an outstanding graduate of the Imperial Martial Pavilion's 16th batch. His background is unknown, but most of the information shows that he has quite a bit of relationship with the Qingyuan Villa. Zhang Yu, Qingyuan Villa. Li Zongjiu noted the name down. They're just nameless soldiers. Since you've come, you're in charge of guarding my Li clan's mine. I'll temporarily give you the position of Li clan's guard. Li Gui, I'll leave the 3 of them to you. Li Zongjiu said. Li Zongjiu didn't care about the name Zhang Yu. However, the graduate of the Imperial Martial Pavilion piqued Li Zongjiu's interest. There was no doubt about the strength of the Imperial Martial Pavilion. Even now, the strength of the Imperial Martial Pavilion was the 2nd strongest in the Shengyan dynasty. They even had the support of the Shengyan dynasty. If one could enter the Imperial Martial Pavilion, it would definitely be a glorious thing for the rest of his life. Even his future would be incomparably bright. The granddaughter of the Luoxia City's city lord, Yi Chao, was studying and cultivating in the Imperial Martial Pavilion. These people obviously came with bad intentions. However, to perform the soul-controlling skill, I'm afraid I'll need someone's help. Li Zongjiu stood up and walked towards a small wooden house halfway up the mountain. Since the entire mine had become the Li family's territory, they could do whatever they wanted with it. Halfway up the mountain was the place where Xiaoye and the others lived. If they wanted to perform the skill successfully, they would need the help of the 1,000-year water lotus. With the help of such power, they would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. 1 day later. Northern Medicine City. Currently, Northern Medicine City could be said to be filled with dangers. First, the Northern Medicine restaurant was massacred. Then, the 1,000 Taste Herb Hall confronted the city lord head-on. the city lord actually attacked the thousand-taste herb hall. Then, the city lord was killed in the alley. With these major events happening one after another, it was hard for them to bear the burden. Even Lu Manxian of the Thousand-Taste Herb Hall couldn't understand the current situation. Their Thousand-Taste Herb Hall had received a large order and had recovered their trading volume. However, Lu Manxian didn't let down her guard. The city lord had just given an order to the Thousand-Flavor Herb Hall and started to target it. Not long after, the city lord had died. If this matter didn't happen to the Thousand-Taste Herb Hall, where else could it happen? Li family, Li Zongjiu. What's the background of this brat? Now that she recalled Li Zongjiu's self-introduction, Lu Manxian had a headache. How could there be such a troublesome person in this small Luoxia city? He had brought her so much trouble. However, with Lu Manchuan's power, although this storm would affect her, it wouldn't be a big deal. I heard that the new city lord was personally recommended by the prefecture master of Kun province. Zhang Yu, there's actually such a huge power behind this person. Even Lu Manxian couldn't help but be surprised. To be recommended by the prefecture master, it was enough to know the status behind this person. It was definitely not simple. I heard that Zhang Yu is a disciple of the Imperial Martial Pavilion. When he was 23 years old, he had already broken through to the origin ancestor realm. Elder Gong Xing, who was dressed in yellow, said slowly. Really? That's interesting. This person is definitely going to make a big move in Northern Medicine City. How is this storm going to blow? I'd like to see where it will end up. Lu Manxian said. By the way, apply to the higher-ups. I want to open a branch in Luoxia City. Luoxia City. That kind of remote small city has no resources other than a good scenery. What's the value of such a place? In the previous comprehensive rating, this city's rating was at the bottom. Elder Gong Xing didn't understand. This was too much of a waste of resources. They were businessmen. They couldn't just open a shop in front of Li Zongjiu just because they were slightly interested in him. After all, making money was the most important thing. Don't worry. I have a feeling that it won't be a loss. Lu Manchuan's eyes flickered. If Zhang Yu were to ascend to the throne, he would definitely make drastic changes. If the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall was burned, it might be affected. Since that was the case, she had to come up with an alternative plan to shift the focus of the work to other places. Gong Xing looked at the excited Lu Manxian and couldn't figure out what was going on in this little girl's mind. How could this kind of thing be trifled with? If there was even the slightest sign of failure, it would leave a huge mark on her performance evaluation. That was something that could ruin his future. However, since Lu Manxian was determined to do so, no one dared to stop her. After all, Lu Manxian was the chief here and was in charge of everything. Chapter 209. Late at night. The Li family's mine. Li Tianqing was also collecting the latest information. The mining of the ore had temporarily stopped, and the nearly 40 tons of Yellowstone ore in their hands could not be sold. Now, the Bai family was also trying their best to establish a sales channel, but there were still many areas that needed to be connected. Otherwise, they might encounter some scammers. Many people were really good at packaging themselves. They would pretend that they had the ability to purchase, and even the middleman was a liar. Both parties would work together to deceive the buyer. This was also why everyone liked this old customer and did not like to change employers. That would mean that they had to accept more risks. Business matters were also left to Li Tianqing and the large group of elders to discuss. Just as Li Tianqing was dealing with these matters. In a tent on the western mountain peak. There were 3 figures sitting there. With their strength, no matter where they went, they would be treated as guests of honor. If they joined the Li family, no matter how useless they were, they should at least be able to get the position of an elder or a deacon. Who would have thought that they would end up as the lowest level guards? Fortunately, Li Gui's eyesight was good. He could tell that the three of them were not simple. He did not manage them according to the way ordinary guards were managed. He just let them rest in the tent and pay a little attention to their vigilance. With some strong people in charge, the Yellowstone ore would naturally be safer. However, the three of them were not satisfied with the treatment they had now. What is Li Zongjiu trying to do? Is he trying to show us his power? The woman, Luo Ri, said, looking at her husband, Chang He. The group of people today seems to have a good relationship with the Li family. What is the cultivation level of the leader? Chang He asked, looking at Luo Sha. They were all at the level of a grade 9 Yuan general, but Luo Sha's strength was obviously above theirs. If they were to fight one-on-one, neither of them would be a match for him. Moreover, in terms of age and experience, Luo Sha was the more experienced one. A Yuan ancestor level expert. Luo Sha said in a deep voice. Although they were unwilling to admit it, this was indeed the level of a Yuan general. From the aura drifting around his body, one could tell that this person's aura had already surpassed the Yuan general level. It would be a piece of cake for such a powerhouse to kill any of the people at the Yuan general realm. Even if the three of them joined forces, they were definitely not that person's match. River Sunset sucked in a breath of cold air. They seemed to be people from the Fog Snow Pellet sect. If I'm not mistaken, the person leading them should be the sect master of the Fog Snow Pellet sect. I never imagined that this small snow elixir sect would actually have a sky origin ancestor. Luo Sha sighed and said. Within a month, we must subdue the Li family and obtain the antidote. Otherwise, we will all be under their control. Luo Sha was very clear that with the strength of the three of them, there were many things that could be used. Therefore, as long as his life was still in the hands of the enemy, he would definitely be controlled by the enemy and it would be difficult for him to escape in this lifetime. Ao Yong himself was very powerful. However, Li Zongjiu had only used some special methods to kill Ao Yong. His true strength was definitely not as strong as the three of them. Therefore, as long as he found the opportunity, he would definitely be able to subdue them. However, I think that Li Zongjiu is also wary of us. Let's stabilize for the time being. Okay. The three of them nodded in unison. The torment and struggle over the past few days had exhausted the three of them. Now that they were in the Li family's camp, they could finally rest for a while. After chatting for a while, they returned to their own rooms and lay down on their beds to rest. Of course, out of habit over the years, they were also pretending to be asleep. There was danger at every moment. Even if it was the person living next door, it was very likely that he would be in danger. Therefore, he could not let his guard down at any moment. However, when they were sleeping today, they felt a little strange. While they were sleeping, they felt that their heads were a little heavy. Okay, Luo Sha's eyelids twitched. He subconsciously wanted to wake up. However, he suddenly felt that his head was hit hard. At the same time, a soothing feeling rose from his body. First, his body gradually sank down. Then, he slowly fell into a deep sleep. In front of the courtyard, above Xiaoya's head, there was a purple water lily. Now, the water lily was circling gently, as if it was emitting a fragrance from the dark night. It was calling all living things to sleep. Li Zong stood behind Xiaoya, looking at the house in front of him and the floating water lily above Xiaoya's head. He could not help but let out a long sigh in his heart. Innate mental strength was indeed strong. They're all asleep. Xiaoya opened her eyes and said to Li Zongjiu, who was beside her. She was able to survive because of Li Zongjiu. If Li Zongjiu was not willing to help, she would have died long ago. She would not have been able to personally kill her enemies just a while ago. This was the happiest thing for Xiaoya. Therefore, Xiaoya was extremely respectful and grateful to Li Zongjiu. She even silently swore in her heart that no matter what Li Zongjiu asked her to do, she would do it without hesitation. Continue to stay here until I come out. Li Zongjiu said. Xiaoya nodded. The original spirit of the water lily was still floating above her head. She slowly extended her power, releasing it into the air. It enveloped the house in front of her, preventing any power from seeping out. Li Zongjiu entered the house. First, he came to Chang He and Luo Ri's bed. He opened his palm and hung it 5 inches away from their faces. Soul controlling technique. Li Zongjiu's eyes emitted a demonic light. There seemed to be an illusory figure emerging from the palm. It left Li Zongjiu's hand and slowly entered the heads of the two. It seemed to have seized the depths of their souls at this moment. Boom! It was like a ferocious beast coming out of the flood. It swallowed the souls of the two people. The two people were originally in a dream. However, when they were swallowed, they seemed to have been awakened. Very quickly, they continued to fall into the endless darkness. Boom! The soul-controlling technique had already left a mark in their bodies. On their chests, there was also a mark. Li Zongjiu retracted his hand. These two people could be considered as settled. Not rusty yet. The reason why some experts in the previous life were so afraid of Li Zongjiu was because Li Zongjiu had some incomparably evil tricks in his hands. For example, this soul-controlling technique. If one was hit by this soul-controlling technique, he could directly erase the memories of the two people's souls. Then, he would plant his own orders in their souls. He would completely become a puppet that he could control. He could even take their lives with a thought. Li Zongjiu walked towards Luo Sha. Just as Li Zongjiu approached Luo Sha, he saw a few drops of blood on the side of Luo Sha's bed. When Li Zongjiu got closer, he saw that there was a silver needle hidden in Luo Sha's fingertip. Luo Sha had subconsciously inserted the silver needle into his finger. When Li Zongjiu saw this scene, Luo Sha suddenly opened his eyes. He raised his hand and struck towards Li Zongjiu. However, the speed of this palm strike was very slow. The sleeping effect of the 1,000-year water lily was still there. Hence, Luo Sha found it difficult to stabilize his body. Li Zongjiu took a step back and dodged the palm strike. At the same time, Luo Sha took out an even longer silver needle from his sleeve and pierced it directly into his heart. Chi! When the needle landed, it directly pierced the acupoint at the heart. In an instant, the blood in Luo Sha's heart increased, and he regained consciousness. Not bad. Li Zongjiu took a step back and saw this scene and said indifferently. This Luo Sha was indeed a ruthless person. Just these methods alone were much stronger than ordinary people. The silver needle hidden in his hand was to prevent others from using this kind of trick. I knew that you were up to no good. You want to control me? Dream on. Luo Sha stared at Li Zongjiu and said in a deep voice. Chapter 210. When Luo Sha came to his senses, he immediately knew that Li Zongjiu must have used some underhanded means behind his back. Luo Sha was indeed like a sheep entering a tiger's den. However, it was almost impossible for a wolf cub like Li Zongjiu to devour him. It was simply wishful thinking. A fool's dream. You are smart, but you won't have the chance to escape. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. His eyes had already sentenced Luo Sha to death. Since he had already walked into this room, how could he let him leave just like that? You? Luo Sha asked himself. He might not have much confidence in dealing with this strange Li Zongjiu. After all, this was still within Li Zongjiu's territory. However, if Luo Sha was determined to leave, even a Sky Origin Ancestor level expert would have to pay a certain price to stop him. If I, Luo Sha, want to leave, no one can stop me. Luo Sha growled. At this moment, two figures appeared behind Li Zongjiu. Changhe, Luo Ri, what are the two of you waiting for? Quickly take him down. Luo Sha shouted when he saw that the two of them had woken up. However, the two of them did not say anything and immediately chased after Luo Sha. Their yuan force intertwined. Li Zongjiu stood on the spot. Although the two of them were under the soul control technique, they still had all the experience and had their own instincts. Boom! Luo Sha faced the two of them head-on. Their yuan force intertwined and he felt that they were suppressing him. After the two of them joined forces, their strength was actually so strong. My body. After exchanging blows for a while, Luo Sha was unable to rush out of the area under his feet. He could not even rush out of the room. Furthermore, his body gradually became heavier. This caused Luo Sha's heart to sink. Not good. We must take that brat down. Luo Sha's gaze fell on Li Zongjiu. If he was entangled by the two of them, there would definitely be no way out. Hence, he had to capture Li Zongjiu. That was the only way out. A terrifying yuan force exploded on the spot, causing the entire room to shake violently. Changhe and Luo Ri were immediately pushed back by the explosion of yuan force. After using this move, the yuan force in Luo Sha's body had already been emptied. Die! Luo Sha abruptly leaped towards Li Zongjiu as he frantically released his yuan force. Reaching out his hand, the yuan power in his hand seemed to have transformed into a sharp claw, grabbing onto Li Zongjiu's shoulder. Li Zongjiu did not move. While Luo Sha's, Luo Ri and Luo Sha's and Luo. After capturing Li Zongjiu, Luo Sha was obviously very proud. Let's see where you can run to. Just as Luo Sha was about to subdue Li Zongjiu, he suddenly saw a ray of light appear above his head. This light was bathed in a gentle aura. This is, the aura of the 1,000-year water lotus entered Luo Sha's body. Luo Sha's entire body went limp as he fell to the ground. If the 1,000-year water lotus wanted to hypnotize someone, it did not even need to take advantage of the fact that the person was half asleep. It could forcefully hypnotize the person. This was the power of the 1,000-year water lotus. Young master, are you all right? Xiaoye hurriedly walked in and asked. Xiaoye did not expect Luo Sha to suddenly go berserk. Hence, she increased her strength and directly knocked Luo Sha out. The power of the 1,000-year water lotus was like a hallucinogen. Inhaling a little would cause you to fall unconscious. However, if you inhaled a large amount, it could cause you to hallucinate and die. Xiaoye's previous attacks were considered gentle. However, this attack was for real. I'm fine. Your water lotus is quite powerful. Li Zongjiu said. He already knew that Xiaoye had great potential. However, he did not expect this. Luo Sha, who had the strength of a grade 9 origin general, did not even have the strength to fight back in front of Xiaoye. If Xiaoye were to become an assassin with such abilities, she would be able to kill people without them noticing. That would be too terrifying. Go out first. I'll cast the spell first. Li Zongjiu said. Xiaoye nodded. However, when she turned around and closed the door, she was elated. This was because Li Zongjiu's praise was as sweet as honey to Xiaoye. What she was most afraid of was being useless. When she first followed Zhu Yan and the rest, she was not strong enough. Hence, she was always a burden to the team. Now that her strength had increased, she was also worried that she would return to the days when she was useless and specially protected. As long as she could be useful, Xiaoye would be happy. The 1,000-year water lotus just now was enough to knock Luo Sha out for 10 days to half a month. Even after he woke up, his mind would definitely return to normal. Fortunately, he met Li Zongjiu. When Li Zongjiu turned him into a puppet, it would not matter even if he was an idiot. Soul-controlling curse. Li Zongjiu chanted the incantation. Then, he formed a seal and hit Luo Sha's face. Energy surged into Luo Sha's body. Then, the power of a curse seal condensed on Luo Sha's chest. When the curse seal appeared, Luo Sha, who had been lying down, slowly opened his eyes. The three of them lined up in a row and stood on the spot. From today onwards, the three of you will be the death warriors of the Li family. If there is any danger, you will take the lead. If you want to kill, you will step in. Whoever dares to hurt the people of the Li family, you will exterminate their entire family. Li Zongjiu's words were like a curse that was engraved in the minds of the three of them. When the three of them opened their eyes one after another and regained their senses, there seemed to be a trace of loss in their eyes. They looked at each other in this room. The thought of secretly harming the Li family from before had already been thrown out of their minds, completely disappearing without a trace. What was left was to be loyal to the Li family and treat themselves as the Li family's guards. From this foundation, it could be said that these people's souls had been cleansed from head to toe. In the next few days, Li Zongjiu was also freely cultivating in this yellow ore mine. Firstly, he wanted to see who would dare to harm the Li family. At the same time, Li Zongjiu could also observe the situation of the three of them. After all, the cultivation in his previous life was different from now. The effect of the soul-controlling curse was still to be observed for a period of time. If there were any problems, the Li family would probably be in trouble. Therefore, Li Zongjiu had to ensure their safety. Safety first. Considering that the Li family also needed to develop. Previously, he had a total of 2 billion gold coins in bank notes. He gave the four elders 100 million each and spent 200 million on medicinal herbs. Now, he had 4 billion left in his pocket. Li Zongjiu handed it all to Li Tianqing. After all, the development of the Li family needed this money very much. Using money to pave the way was the safest way to go. Where did you get so much money? Oh my God, our Li family has been in business for so long, but we have never seen so much money in one go. Li Tianqing almost jumped up from his seat. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. These bank notes were all real. Real gold and silver. Moreover, they were all bank notes from Baoning Bank. There was a row of words engraved on the bank notes. Baoning Bank, unparalleled in the world. This was enough to show the power of Baoning Bank. Alright, this is just a small amount of money. You have to look further. When the sect leader and the others return, I need to go out. Li Zongjiu said. Go out? Where to? To Tianqin Medicine Manor. Are you out of your mind? Do you think you can go to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor just because you want to? Who gave you the confidence to do so? Li Tianqing looked at Li Zongjiu's confident face and was extremely displeased. Although this was his son, could this kid restrain himself a little? He said that this Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor was like his back garden. He could go there whenever he wanted, and he could poop there whenever he wanted. I'm not bragging. This is because I want to go. If I don't want to go, I won't go even if he invites me. Chapter 211. Li Tianqing naturally had nothing to say. He did not know where this kid had learned to be so thick-skinned from. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor would recruit disciples every year. In 3 months' time, which was the beginning of autumn, there would be an autumn enrollment. However, there was no recruitment point in the small Luoxia city. After all, it was the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, and it had to be grand enough. Normally, it would be set up in some second-grade cities to have recruitment points. Of course, disciples from various cities were also welcome to come along. This was also the peak period for robberies. However, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor did not care about this. If one did not even have the strength to reach the registration point, then there was no need to come to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. It was not just the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. The Imperial Martial Pavilion and the Sacred Flame Sword sect would also recruit disciples at this time. When all the major forces gathered together, it would usually be very lively. Enrollment was concentrated. Although the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was said to be more inclined towards alchemists, it also had a Yuan power cultivation course. There were also countless geniuses who cultivated both martial arts and alchemy. They simply had too many talents. One had to use such a method to share the talents. One could imagine how monstrous these people's talents were. The exploration of the ruins by the Fog Elixir sect and the others went smoothly. After about a week, they walked out of the cave unscathed. Previously, he had guessed that it was a Sword King level tomb. However, in reality, this was merely the remains of a Grade 9 Sky Origin ancestor powerhouse. Although he had been a half-step Sword King, he had still died at the last crucial moment. There were not many dangerous restrictions inside, so there was no need to elaborate on what they had encountered. On the contrary, the things they had obtained made Chu Aoran's face look better. When they walked out, there was a smile on his face. First of all, the Grade 4 Origin art was definitely not going to escape. As for the Origin skill, Chu Aoran and the others gave the Li family a month to copy 2 Grade 4 Origin skills and 5 Grade 3 Origin skills. Grade 3 Origin skills. To the Li family, this was already priceless. This kind of value was unimaginable in other places, and they actually sent 3 at once. This caused the Li family to be overjoyed. Looking at his father's excited face, Li Zongjiu could not help but shake his head. It seemed like he still had to increase his knowledge. Otherwise, he would only be a country bumpkin in the future. Whether or not the Pills sect had handed over everything wasn't important to the Li clan. What was important was that the information before them was enough for them to digest. Other than that, according to the agreement, this 20% had already been given to the Li family. He did an inventory check. This included 20 low-grade primordial stones. 1 mid-grade primordial stone. This yuan stone was a crystallization of highly concentrated and dense energy. In reality, it was also a type of ore. At the bottom of this yuan qi gathering place, this yuan stone would automatically be formed. The effect of this item was very direct. He would speed up his cultivation. The origin energy produced by the origin stones could be directly absorbed and refined by cultivators. It was dozens of times easier than absorbing the origin energy from the heaven and earth. The higher the grade of the origin stone, the greater the amount of origin energy within it. Just the value of a low-grade primordial stone was not something that could be calculated with gold yuan coins. This low-grade primordial stone was already equivalent to a grade 3 spiritual herb. No one would use this primordial stone to exchange for gold yuan coins. After all, it was on a different level. It was just like how no one would use a top-grade primordial art to exchange for thousands of buns. Only a few powerful factions could possess primordial stones. The reason why the Shengyan dynasty was so powerful was because the Shengyan dynasty's dragon vein was located at the intersection of 3 primordial stone mines. The emergence of these primordial stone mines became the foundation of the Shengyan dynasty's strength. It was normal for a grade 9 origin ancestor to have some primordial stones in his hands. Other than the primordial stones, there were also many spiritual herbs and spiritual herbs. The lowest grade of the elixir was grade 2. The Snow Fog Pills sect even took out a grade 4 elixir. For a sect, this was already very generous. If Li Tianqing had insisted on hiding this information and led his team to charge in, he might have ended up in a miserable state. Even if he succeeded in the end, there would definitely be losses. However, it was different if Chu Aoran came. It was a win-win situation for everyone. The only difference was whether they won more or less. It would take a month to copy the primordial skill. During this period of time, Peak Master Lin Sung and Elder Qin Lai were ordered to stay here temporarily to protect them. Firstly, it was to ensure the safety of the primordial skill. Secondly, it was to ensure that the Li family did not escape. They did not care about the grade 3 primordial skill, but the grade 4 primordial skill was extremely important. The contribution that Protector Li and the Li family have made to the sect this time is immeasurable. I will record it in the sect's merit book. Sect Master, you are too kind. Li Zongjiu said with a smile. In terms of strength, the current Li Zongjiu might not necessarily have no chance of winning against Chu Aoran. However, it was not easy to build a good relationship with Chu Aoran, so he had to stabilize it. He couldn't just rely on benefits. Occasionally, he had to exert some pressure to let the other party know his strength. This time, we will leave the two elders here. We will return to the sect first. If we have time, we will come back to the main sect often. Chu Aoran said. Li Zongjiu nodded in agreement. Protector Li, I am Yang Hongyu. If there is a chance in the future, you are welcome to visit Kingstown. Yang Hongyu came in front of Li Zongjiu and said respectfully. He was not as boring as Mo Chu. Yang Hongyu knew from his family that Li Zongjiu was destined to be extraordinary. He could only be on good terms with such a person. If he could be on good terms with him, there would be endless benefits. Whether he could be on good terms with him would depend on how sincere he was. Yang Hongyu, right? I will remember it. Li Zongjiu said. The person in front of him looked familiar. He remembered that he had defeated an opponent in the sect's martial arts competition. However, it was impossible for Li Zongjiu to remember his name. Fortunately, Yang Hongyu was tactful and mentioned it himself. I remember that your family head is good at making origin weapons. If there is a chance, I will go. Li Zongjiu said. Yang Hongyu was overjoyed when he heard this. Okay. I will definitely welcome you, Protector. The strength of the origin weapon was also very important to a cultivator. If the saber in his hand became stronger, it would be easier to kill people. Li Zongjiu had relied on the power of the 6th grade steel saber in many battles. Otherwise, it would not have been so easy to take the lives of these people with his bare hands. Therefore, this handy weapon could also bring him a lot of advantages. I still have to make some preparations before I leave. Li Zongjiu thought. Based on the current strength of the Li family, they would be able to gain an advantage if they were to encounter an ordinary force. However, if they were to encounter a few forces that were to join forces, it would be very difficult for them. In order to get out of this predicament, they would have to create an ancestor origin level elite. Based on my current origin energy, it should not be a problem to refine a grade 4 elixir, Siam's Inner Elixir. Siam's Inner Elixir. It might not have a high status among grade 4 elixir pills. For an ancestor origin level elite, its effect would be very limited. However, for a cultivator at the peak of the origin general level, it was simply a divine elixir that they could only dream of. Even if they had to go bankrupt, they would still want to obtain it. When he had killed Fu Chunlei and the others, he had obtained a grade 4 elixir pill. Its effect was not as strong as the Siam's Inner Elixir. However, it was just a dream-breaking heart elixir. Its effect was equivalent to half of the Siam's Inner Elixir. Just this dream-breaking heart elixir had already made Ao Yong so excited that he had even risked defending the 1000-taste herb hall to capture Li Zongjiu. This was enough to show how important this elixir was to an ordinary cultivator. Chapter 212. Li Zongjiu handed the Dream Heartbreaker elixir to Changhe. The elixir's effect was enough to allow Changhe's cultivation to reach the peak of the Origin General Realm, or even the half-step Origin Ancestor Realm. It would still take some time for him to reach the Origin Ancestor Realm. However, among the three of them, Changhe was extremely talented. Only Long River's strength was slightly stronger. Luo Sha had a stronger foundation, which was why he had been able to persist until now. He was even stronger than them in terms of cultivation. If they were on the same level, Luo Sha would definitely not be Changhe's opponent. After the three of them from Northern Medicine City had become puppets, they did not look any different. They could even think and make some judgments. The amazing thing about the soul control technique was that it could control the other party's mind and soul under such circumstances, so that the other parts of the body would not be affected. It was as if it had undergone an extremely thorough brainwashing. Li Zongjiu personally opened the cauldron to refine the elixir. However, in order to refine a grade 4 elixir, not only did one have to have sufficient conditions, but one also had to pass the test in terms of hardware. It was impossible to succeed in the Huang Yuan mine. Li Zongjiu did not even have a cauldron in his possession. Therefore, he had to make a trip to Flying Cloud City. Li Zongjiu sent someone to inquire about it. There was a pill refinery building in Flying Cloud City, which was the property of the Dixian Merchant Alliance. The Dixian Merchant Alliance was the only merchant alliance in Flying Cloud City. Their interests were intertwined. Originally, Li Gui had wanted to send someone to accompany Li Zongjiu so that they could take care of each other on the way. However, Li Zongjiu refused. Just do what you are supposed to do. No one can make things difficult for me in this small Flying Cloud City. As for the map of Flying Cloud City, Li Zongjiu had already roughly memorized the route when he had been searching for Li Xuelan's aunt. Therefore, the place they were going to this time was called the Mirror Moon Building. Li Zongjiu knew where the Mirror Moon Building was. It was said that the Mirror Moon Pavilion was under the jurisdiction of a director of the Merchant Union. Li Zongjiu was not interested in knowing who was in charge of this. He only wanted to know if there were any conditions that would allow him to refine pills. The Mirror Moon Pavilion announced that there was a profound grade cauldron in the pavilion. Even refining a grade 4 medicinal pill wouldn't be a problem. It was placed here as the most precious treasure of the tower. Not everyone who knew alchemy could afford to buy a good cauldron, but some precious herbs were not wasted. Therefore, there were often places like alchemy buildings that only cost a small amount of money. He would be able to use some top-notch cauldrons to increase the success rate of refining pills. This was a very clever idea. At the same time, the alchemy building could often provide flames that came from the Yuan rune array. Even if some alchemists possessed medicinal cauldrons, their own origin energy was not strong enough. Therefore, there was no way to stimulate a strong flame to refine medicinal pills. At this time, the appearance of the Yuan rune formation was required. Usually, the cost of engraving a Yuan rune array was also very expensive. However, it could provide a strong flame to aid in refining pills. The fame of the alchemy building basically came from the environment in which the pills were refined. In other words, the strength of the Yuan rune array and the grade of the cauldron. For example, in the Earth-Fire Pavilion of the Li family in the Luoxia city, there was an Earth-Fire Yuan rune array. Although it was extremely dilapidated, it was still very old. Although the Earth-Fire Yuan rune array was in tatters, the power it produced was still very impressive. Once again, he returned to Flying Cloud City. Li Zongjiu did not attract anyone's attention. Li Zongjiu pursued a low-profile life and high-profile work. However, after doing things in a high-profile manner, one's low-profile character would be rewritten. Once something happened, one would not be able to keep a low profile. This must be the Mirror Moon Pavilion. It looks like the scale is not bad. Li Zongjiu glanced at the 7-story cylindrical building in front of him. In comparison, the Li family's alchemy building paled in comparison to the Mirror Moon Pavilion. After all, it was a place specially provided for alchemists. There were not many people coming and going. Even when people walked out of the building, the passers-by would look at them with admiration and respect. After all, these people were all alchemists. "Good morning, how may I help you?" Li Zongjiu had just walked in when he saw a young girl with a sunny smile on her face. At the same time, she handed him a cup of hot tea. The place where money was spent was indeed different. Even the service was so considerate. "Thank you, I would like to rent an alchemy room." Li Zongjiu took the hot tea and said, "All right, please register and make your choice here." The young girl said, "We have beginner alchemy rooms, intermediate alchemy rooms, and advanced alchemy rooms. What kind of rooms do you need?" Can your advanced alchemy rooms refine grade 4 pills?" Li Zongjiu asked. 4. Grade 4, the young girl was obviously very surprised. Li Zongjiu was young, but his tone was not small. The moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to refine grade 4 pills. Grade 4 pills. In the entire Flying Cloud City, there was only one advanced grade 2 alchemist. He wasn't even a grade 3 alchemist yet, but he wanted to refine grade 4 pills. However, when the young girl saw Li Zongjiu's young appearance, she also thought that Li Zongjiu was here to book a room for his master. "What's wrong, little sister Xiao Chao?" Just as the young girl was about to continue asking, Li Zongjiu heard a voice from behind. Li Zongjiu also turned around and saw a young man. He also had a smile on his face, but there was a light layer of rouge powder on his face. This made Li Zongjiu frown, and he couldn't help but take 2 steps to the side. Li Zongjiu was not afraid of anything, but he was afraid of these men who were even more sissy than women. Li Zongjiu also felt a sense of disgust when he got close to such a man. What was his name again? What was his name again? Li Zongjiu was most annoyed by these things. It wasn't that he discriminated against them, but he just didn't like them. There were no other personal reasons. "This is our Mirror Moon Pavilion's business team leader." The young girl hurriedly introduced the man to Li Zongjiu. Then she said to the man with the white powder on his face, "This young master wants an alchemy room that can refine grade 4 pills." In just a few words, he had already explained the matter very clearly. The pale-faced man nodded and waved his hand, indicating for Xiao Chao to leave first. When Li Zongjiu saw the man's fingers, his eyes widened. "Fuck, is that fingernail polish?" Li Zongjiu was shocked in his heart. The man's fingernails were dyed with colorful paint. He didn't know who invented this paint, but it could be applied to the fingernails to maintain a bright color. If Li Zongjiu wasn't knowledgeable and knew about the existence of this nail polish, he would have thought that the kid's fingers were poisoned. "Young master, our Mirror Moon Pavilion satisfies all alchemists' needs. Naturally, we have alchemy rooms that can refine grade 4 pills. However, you can enter the other alchemy rooms after paying. Only this alchemy room requires a qualification check before you can enter. Are you refining pills yourself, or are you here to help someone else apply?" the pale-faced man asked. He naturally saw the look in Li Zongjiu's eyes. Since he dared to look at him like that, he would make a move and let him know what it meant to regret. "I'll use it myself." "In that case, please prove that you are capable of concocting rank 4 medicinal pellets. If not, then please leave." Although he had a professional smile on his face, there was a trace of schadenfreude in his eyes. This was because he had purposely raised his voice so that the surrounding people could hear him. Chapter 213. This man was called Yi Baixiang. Although he didn't know what his parents had in mind when they had given him this name, he knew that it wasn't a very good idea. Ordinary people would find it rather awkward to hear it. However, this wasn't the main point. The main point was Yi Baixiang. Besides being the team leader of the Mirror Moon Pavilion, he also had another identity. He was the master of the Mirror Moon Pavilion, the last disciple of the Mirror Moon Pavilion. With this identity, he would be able to get along with both the good and the bad in Feiyin City. Everyone would have to give him some face. Therefore, when they came out, they thought that someone like Li Zongjiu was just a nobody who came out of nowhere. He wanted to suppress him in terms of aura. However, Yi Baixiang noticed that Li Zongjiu was looking at him with disrespect. Who said that men couldn't use makeup to preserve their youth? He thought that this was pretty good. As for the people who looked at him with contempt, he had to take them all down. This was what Yi Baixiang was thinking. He had to let Li Zongjiu know how powerful he was. He had to let this impolite and ignorant brat know who had the final say in the Mirror Moon Pavilion. "Prove it." Li Zongjiu frowned. The other party was clearly trying to make things difficult for him. Could it be that this kid was tired of living? However, he had to keep a low profile. Li Zongjiu reminded himself to keep this in mind. Otherwise, if he made a move, there would be a bloodbath. Just as Li Zongjiu was thinking about how he should prove himself, or how he should tear this brat apart, another person walked into the Mirror Moon Pavilion. This person seemed to have noticed the situation inside and immediately turned to leave. However, Yi Baixiang, who had seen everything clearly, called out to him enthusiastically. "Family head Su, you've come at the right time. Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" My master is still in seclusion after what happened last time. This time, he said that he had to invite family head Su over for a chat. Yi Baixiang ignored Li Zongjiu. He quickly walked towards the person in front of him. Su Yuliang used his sleeves to cover his face. He wanted to pretend that he didn't see or hear anything, but Yi Baixiang was too fast. In just a few moments, they had already appeared in front of Su Yuliang. This made Su Yuliang anxious. What should he do? How could he be so unlucky? Could it be that this flying cloud city was really so small? This was simply too much. Why was it that he kept bumping into this fellow wherever he went? Su Yuliang had come to the Mirror Moon Pavilion in the morning to buy some pills. Although he didn't need to do these things himself as the head of the Nan family, there were still some transactions that needed to be done by the owner of the Mirror Moon Pavilion. The last time something had happened, they had wanted to ask the Mirror Moon Tower Master for help. However, the Mirror Moon Tower Master happened to be in seclusion. No one knew whether she was in seclusion or not. Even if you knew that the other party wasn't in seclusion, what could you do? After all, the other party's power was there. If he made a slight move, he would still have to put his butt between his legs and go up to him. Therefore, when Yi Baixiang walked up to him, she had no choice but to stop. She had to face Li Zongjiu, who was behind her. Head of the Su family. Head of the Su family, what are you looking at? Yi Baixiang couldn't help but ask. Why was Su Yuliang always acting like a desolate god? Or was it because he had been scared out of his wits? Ha, Prince Yi, I just remembered that I have some matters to deal with in the family. I'll take my leave first. Su Yuliang's expression seemed to be very stiff. He wanted to turn around and leave. However, Li Zongjiu didn't let him. He stood beside him and coughed. Su Yuliang's heart skipped a beat. This time, he couldn't avoid it. If they didn't even greet each other, the Su family wouldn't be able to survive in the future. What do you think is going on? Li Zongjiu was clearly the enemy who killed their old ancestor. Now, when Su Yuliang saw Li Zongjiu, he had no choice but to admit defeat. Otherwise, the consequences would be very tragic. With Li Zongjiu's strength, if he wanted to destroy the Su family, it would be a matter of minutes. Moreover, almost half of the Li family had been moved over. The scale and speed of their growth was obvious to everyone. If this continued, there would definitely be forces in the Flying Cloud City that would be squeezed out by the Li family. Previously, the Huang family had sensed this danger. In addition, they wanted to make a fortune out of it. So, they joined forces with the Viper Gang. Right now, the Venomous Serpent Gang had been reduced to ashes, and the Huang family themselves had been splashed with a bucket of shit. They had ended up like this. They couldn't blame anyone. Hee, so young Master Li is here too. Su Yuliang directly ignored Yi Baixiang and walked towards Li Zongjiu. He gave Li Zongjiu an awkward but warm smile. Li Zongjiu heard this and nodded indifferently. You came at the right time. Just now, this transvestite. No, this person asked me to prove my strength. Tell him. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Su Yuliang immediately cursed Yi Baixiang's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. Fuck, who was this person? How dare she do such a thing? She was obviously trying to provoke Su Yuliang. Who was this Yi Baixiang? She was just a sissy. If not for her identity as the master of the Mirror Moon Tower, she wouldn't even be fit to carry Su Yuliang's shoes. She didn't have any qualifications. She didn't have any abilities, but she heard that this last disciple of hers would sometimes close the door and do things that outsiders wouldn't know about. Everyone was well aware of this, but they didn't expose it on the surface. Usually, when they met, they would chat and laugh. However, no matter what she did or said, she just had to provoke this malefic star. It was simply unbearable. It was fine if she provoked him, but she just had to provoke him when he was here. This made Su Yuliang feel extremely sad. How could something like this happen to him? Young Master Li. When she heard how Su Yuliang addressed Li Zongjiu, Yi Baixiang started to wonder where exactly this fella came from. However, the Li family did not exist in Soaring Cloud City. Even if there was, it should be a very small surname. Who knew where they had migrated from? Who knew where this young master had come from? Did he think that he could act so arrogantly just because he knew the Su family head? He. There is no need to doubt young Master Li's qualifications. Rest assured, young Master Yi. Cough. I can prove it. Of course, he could prove it. The Su family had so many experts, yet they hadn't been able to take down Li Zongjiu alone. Instead, he had killed the old ancestor. Now, everything had been exposed. What do you think is going on? Now, he actually had to personally prove Li Zongjiu's strength. This made Su Yuliang feel even more embarrassed. Patriarch, oh Patriarch, I'm really sorry. In order to protect the Su family and ensure that they have a way out, I'm afraid I'll have to suffer this loss for the rest of my life. He. The Su family head's words are naturally trustworthy. However, according to the rules of the Mirror Moon Tower, he has to show off. Alright, kid, I won't make things difficult for you. If you can refine a grade 3 elixir, I will rent the Supreme Alchemy Room to you. As Yi Baixiang spoke, she actually used her right pinky to pick at the thing between her left thumb. Upon hearing Yi Baixiang's words, Su Yuliang subconsciously took 2 steps back, afraid that Yi Baixiang's blood would splatter on his body. How could there be such a person in this world who couldn't wait to die? Chapter 214. Yi Baixiang saw Su Yuliang retreat, but she didn't care. She thought that Su Yuliang was suppressed by her aura. After all, her aura was there. It was very normal for the tiger's body to tremble for a moment. Her real target was Li Zongjiu, who was standing in front of her. Although he looked smart, he was behaving foolishly. He did not even show the slightest shame or embarrassment on his face. Those who did not know would have thought that he was a noodle stall. Li Zongjiu pondered for a while. Eventually, he shook his head and sighed. Keeping a low profile was, in fact, relative. In some situations, talking was not enough. When necessary, one had to use a knife. Li Zongjiu took out his 6 revolution steel blade. When the blade was unsheathed, a terrifying aura was released from the blade. The cold and gloomy aura was real and bone-chilling. This was clearly just a 6th grade steel blade. However, in Li Zongjiu's hands, it had killed many powerhouses and absorbed an unknown amount of powerful blood. The aura of the blade itself had also grown imperceptibly. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to see this murderous aura. Only people who had seen a lot of blood would be able to keenly sense it. For ordinary people, this aura would make them feel incomparably fearful. How dare you use a knife in the Mirror Moon restaurant? Men, take him down. Yi Baixiang shouted loudly. She pinched her fingers and pointed at Li Zongjiu. Finally, she had a chance to take him down. Either Li Zongjiu could not refine a grade 3 elixir pill and she would be humiliated before throwing him out. Or Li Zongjiu would become angry out of humiliation. Sure enough, after finding the opportunity, of course, he would throw Li Zongjiu out. Swoosh! Li Zongjiu swung the long blade in his hand. Before she could see the trajectory of the blade, Yi Baixiang saw something flying. Swoosh! Patter! It fell not far from the ground, and Yi Baixiang finally saw it clearly. It was a finger. 3 fingers were lying on the ground. Why did the ring on one of the fingers look so familiar? When he looked at his outstretched orchid finger, it was already empty. At the same time, he felt a sharp pain. Ah! Yi Baixiang immediately covered her finger and screamed. My hand, my hand! The guards of the Mirror Moon Pavilion who had heard the news also glared at Li Zongjiu. Just as he was about to draw his sword and kill Li Zongjiu, he heard Su Yuliang snort coldly. Don't blame me for not warning you. Once the saber leaves its sheath, you will die without a doubt. Su Youliang's words were full of color. The guards also knew Su Youliang's identity. If it was an ordinary person who said this, they would let it go. However, since it was Su Youliang who said this, they had no choice but to take it seriously. After all, family head Su had a pretty good relationship with the Mirror Moon Pavilion. The guard captain was also acquainted with family head Su. Ahem. The guard captain immediately pretended to cough a few times. The guards who had gathered around could not help but stand to the side. Sir, according to the rules of the Mirror Moon Pavilion, no weapons are allowed. Please put away your treasured saber. As for the incident of accidentally injuring our people, please come to our meeting room and explain. The captain of the guards immediately became very polite. However, this matter still had to be resolved. After all, Yi Baixiang's identity was not simple. If they did not deal with her appropriately, they would not have a good ending. What are you doing? Are you crazy? This brat cut off my finger. Hurry up and kill him. Otherwise, I will ask my master to kill your entire family. Do you believe me? Yi Baixiang's face turned ferocious. She covered her severed finger and roared at the guard captain. These people were also frowning. They were not subordinates here. They were just employees. They were hired to carry out basic guard duties. Yi Baixiang was usually arrogant and made people unhappy. Now, she even threatened them with their families. This was the biggest taboo in the underworld. Hurry up and kill him. Kill him. If he doesn't die, all of you will die. With my master's strength, do you think you can escape? Yi Baixiang roared. Just as she was roaring, a dazzling saber light suddenly appeared. Yi Baixiang instinctively took a step back, but she hit the pillar behind her. Thump! A dazzling long saber pierced through Yi Baixiang's throat and nailed her to the pillar. You have dirted my saber. Li Zongjiu kept his saber. Yi Baixiang's eyes widened as she stared at Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu kept his saber and walked away. He did not care about Yi Baixiang's gaze at all. Even in death, Yi Baixiang still couldn't believe that she would be killed by someone in her own territory, the Mirror Moon Pavilion. Xiang, Suddenly, an old and hurried voice came from the staircase. Looking at the body that had fallen to the ground, he turned into a gust of wind and landed in front of Yi Baixiang without hesitation. However, it was a pity that Yi Baixiang was already dead. The Moon Mirror Pavilion Master had a faint sandalwood fragrance on her body. However, this sandalwood fragrance was only used to mask her body odor. Were there any normal people in the Moon Mirror Pavilion? Li Zongjiu glanced at the old man kneeling on one knee. It seemed like they were very close. Otherwise, he would not have knelt down. Mirror. Moon Mirror Pavilion Master, Su Youliang could not help but gulp. The old man in blue robes was the pavilion master of the Moon Mirror Pavilion. To outsiders, he only called himself the Moon Mirror Pavilion Master. Apart from being in charge of the Moon Mirror Pavilion, he was also a powerful alchemist. He also had many reputations and identities in the city. His most feared identity was that he was one of the 10 board members of the Dixian Merchant Union. Since he was a board member, he was at least a sky origin ancestor. When Li Zongjiu killed his way into the Su family, Su Youliang had sent people to seek help from the master of the Mirror Moon Pavilion. Who would have thought that the master of the Mirror Moon Pavilion would close the door and refuse to see him? However, this layer of relationship could not be severed. Su Youliang had a bad premonition as he looked at the old man kneeling on the ground. Li Zongjiu might not be able to escape today. However, given the strength of the Li family, it was impossible for them to fight against the Dixian Merchant Union. As long as the Dixian Merchant Union was still around, the Li family would not be able to seek revenge on the Moon Mirror Pavilion Master. Did you kill him? The Moon Mirror Pavilion Master's cold voice reverberated in the hall. It was as if a gust of chilly wind had appeared out of nowhere. With a bang, all the doors and windows were shut. Yes. Li Zongjiu's reply was as if someone had asked him if he had eaten and he had replied that he had. It was so normal and natural that even the tone of his voice did not fluctuate in the slightest. The Moon Mirror Pavilion Master's aura was released. The aura of a sky origin ancestor was completely revealed. The yuan power outside his body surged. She was a true sky origin ancestor. Everyone present was shocked. The guards could not help but take a few steps back. Some of the customers who had come were also very shocked. However, this matter seemed to have nothing to do with them. Furthermore, they were able to witness such a wonderful fight and witness such a huge event. They were also somewhat excited. The girl called Xiao Chao, who had served Li Zongjiu earlier, was also hiding behind a table. She had never imagined that Li Zongjiu would actually be so brazen as to actually draw his weapon in the Mirror Moon Pavilion. Furthermore, he had even killed their manager and the last disciple of the Mirror Moon Pavilion. He had not even spoken much. Most importantly, she had a very good impression of Li Zongjiu at first. She had thought that Li Zongjiu was a polite disciple of a large family. Who would have known that he was a perverted demon who killed without batting an eyelid? Only people like Li Zongjiu could kill without batting an eyelid. Very well. How dare you kill my people in my territory? Speak. Who sent you? The Moon Mirror Pavilion Master's gaze was like an angry lion or a vicious wolf. He stared at Li Zongjiu in the dark, as if he could chop off Li Zongjiu's head with his gaze alone. However, such a gaze was nothing more than a clown's trick in front of Li Zongjiu. He simply did not take it to heart. I was sent by your grandfather. Li Zongjiu replied nonchalantly. The Moon Mirror Pavilion Master was stunned at first. Then, he suddenly realized that Li Zongjiu was actually making fun of him. How audacious! You're courting death. The Moon Mirror Pavilion Master's aura condensed into a flame in front of him. Within the flame, there seemed to be a ghostly face struggling to break free. Su Yuliang could not help but exclaim when he saw this scene. Was this the Moon Mirror Pavilion Master's ghostly fire origin energy? It was rumored that the Moon Mirror Pavilion Master had encountered such a fortuitous encounter in a graveyard. By chance, he managed to cultivate this ghostly fire origin energy. Once swallowed by the ghostly fire, even his soul would be completely burned away. Then, he would be devoured by the ghostly fire. The more energy the ghostly fire absorbed, the stronger it would become. Such terrifying strength. The Moon Mirror Pavilion Master's strength is really strong. That brat is dead for sure. Sigh. I wonder where this brat came from. He actually dared to offend the Dragon King. That brat looks like an idiot. I wonder where he came from. He deserves to die. Otherwise, who knows how many people would have been killed by him. The spectators could not help but comment. The ghostly fire was accompanied by a terrifying power as it charged towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu seemed to be frozen in place. He did not even have the ability to resist. Boom! The palm pressed onto Li Zongjiu's body. Everyone widened their eyes, prepared to admire Li Zongjiu's painful expression as he was refined by the ghostly fire. However, this scene did not happen. Chapter 215. Li Zongjiu used his body to receive the palm strike. He didn't even resist and simply stood there. The painful scene of his soul dispersing didn't happen. This shocked everyone. Could it be that the Mirror Moon Tower Master's strength was just a paper tiger? Although it looked powerful, it didn't have any power. What? The Mirror Moon Tower Master stared at Li Zongjiu in disbelief. Li Zongjiu didn't move at all. His clothes didn't even have a single trace of being burnt. The most vivid feeling was that her own yuan power seemed to have disappeared into the sea. She couldn't find any effect at all. It had disappeared just like that. Li Zongjiu's body was like a vast sea that was continuously devouring the Mirror Moon Tower Master's energy. My Yuan power was actually completely absorbed by his body. Wherever the will-o'-the-wisp Yuan power spread, she could clearly feel that the energy was gradually disappearing and merging into Li Zongjiu's body. How did Li Zongjiu do it? Could he be a Yuan beast? Or did he cultivate some evil Yuan art? It was so terrifying. Is this all you've got? Li Zongjiu seemed to be curious and interested. However, he was doubting the Mirror Moon Tower Master's strength. The Mirror Moon Tower Master's face had already turned purple. She had actually been doubted by a junior. This damn thing actually dared to doubt the Mirror Moon Tower Master. In that case, the Mirror Moon Tower Master will let you know what true power is. You asked for it. The Mirror Moon Tower Master had already completely lost herself in the anger she felt after being provoked by Li Zongjiu. The Yuan power within her body surged once again. Li Zongjiu's hands flew up and down as a terrifying force was mobilized from within his body. His arms seemed to have become an incomparably ferocious flamethrower. The raging flames that were spewed out instantly enveloped Li Zongjiu's entire body. Boom! The flames were like a giant python that swallowed Li Zongjiu whole. The source of this giant python was the Mirror Moon Tower Master's hands. Taste my ghost python primordial swallowing fire. The dark blue flames illuminated the Mirror Moon Tower Master's old face, making it appear extremely ugly. Just looking at it made people feel disgusted. Li Zongjiu was engulfed by this Yuan power, as if he was a terrifying creature that had crawled out from the depths of hell. Without any sound, it was as if his entire body had been turned into ashes by this move. That was why there was no movement at all. Boom! This flame lasted for dozens of seconds. Such a powerful output had already formed a terrifying state. Only a Yuan general level expert could possess such a foundation and endure for such a long time. The surrounding people all had envious gazes as they praised the strength of the Mirrored Moon Pavilion Master. Even the temperature in the hall of the Mirrored Moon Pavilion was rising rapidly. However, the only person that did not relax was the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master. He could clearly feel it. Under the power of his ghost python primordial swallowing fire, Li Zongjiu's aura did not weaken in the slightest. Instead, it continued to strengthen. This strengthening aura made him feel fear. Li Zongjiu was like a monster that continuously devoured other people's Yuan power. How could such a person exist? How could this be possible? This Li Zongjiu should have exploded and died. It should have been completely refined by him, and not even its bones should have been left. In the next moment, the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master's expression was no longer solemn. Instead, it turned into a terrified expression. Boom! The flames rapidly disappeared, as if they had been swallowed by a whirlpool. And when the flames completely disappeared, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. The Mirror Moon Pavilion's master's 2 arms were forcefully torn off. Pa! Pa! The 2 arms were forcefully pulled off by Li Zongjiu. Most importantly, the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master was still standing in his original position, maintaining his original state. The only difference was that his arms were directly pulled off by Li Zongjiu. What? Oh my god, this is too violent. How could the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master be defeated? Everyone's eyes widened as they sucked in a breath of cold air. Su Yuyang was once again frightened and took a step back. He could not believe that Li Zongjiu had actually pulled off the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master's 2 arms. The 2 arms were thrown onto the ground. Li Zongjiu still stood in his original position without moving, but the expression on his face showed that he was enjoying it. He took a deep breath as if he was enjoying the process. Whoosh! The flesh that was hidden under his clothes was also constantly flipping. During this process, many changes and transformations took place, allowing Li Zongjiu to clearly feel the power contained within. The ancient golden tyrannical body art is indeed powerful. Li Zongjiu also sucked in a breath of cold air. As someone who had personally experienced it, he was also very clear about how dangerous the situation was. When the body absorbed this power and fused with the flesh, it was as if his body was about to explode. However, when he circulated the ancient golden tyrannical body art, his body was like a rubber ball that could never be broken. He forcibly suppressed this power, and in the end, this power turned into energy and poured into his body. Li Zongjiu's physical body was also strengthened at this moment. In the end, he used the last of his remaining strength to directly pull off the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master's arms. He did not even need to personally do it. The Mirror Moon Pavilion's master's arms were torn off. It was really terrifying. You made your move. Now it's my turn. Li Zongjiu's lips curled into a cold smile as his voice fell. The Mirror Moon Pavilion's master did not have time to feel the intense pain in his arms. When he saw the terrifying light in Li Zongjiu's eyes, his heart suddenly quivered. Swoosh! His figure moved forward and punched the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master's head. However, the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master's head did not explode on the spot. Instead, with a loud bang, his head slammed into the wall along with his body. His entire head smashed through the wall, and almost half of his body was sent flying out. After a series of jerks, his body finally stopped moving. When everyone saw this scene, they were so quiet that they did not dare to make a sound. They did not even dare to breathe too loudly. They stared fixedly at Li Zongjiu. Who exactly was this Li Zongjiu? Who would have thought that he was so powerful that he could directly cripple someone? This was simply too terrifying. Even the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master could not do anything to Li Zongjiu. Who else could be Li Zongjiu's opponent? He actually killed the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master in the Mirror Moon Pavilion. How would this end? Who's the boss here now? Li Zongjiu opened his mouth and asked. At the same time, his eyes also scanned the surroundings. The surrounding people also shrunk their heads, not daring to make a sound or show their faces. They were afraid that if they showed their faces, they would be killed by Li Zongjiu. It was as if in their eyes, Li Zongjiu had already become a murderer who liked to kill very much. Not getting an answer, Li Zongjiu also turned his gaze to Su Yuliang. Su Yuliang knew that he could not avoid it, so he said. Although the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master is in charge of it, it is the property of the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. Although the Mirror Moon Pavilion's master is dead, the Di Xian Merchant Alliance will soon send someone to take over. Li Zongjiu paused and nodded. Then, he searched his body. Since it is a property, it can be transferred. In the future, the Mirror Moon Pavilion will belong to the Li family. This is the money for the purchase. Help me pass it to them and tell them about the situation here. Li Zongjiu did not know what the Di Xian Merchant Alliance was. Moreover, he was not interested in the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. However, he was very interested in the Di Xian Merchant Alliance's permit. Now was not the time. When the time came, he would directly take over. Even if he had the permit now, the Li family would not be able to establish a merchant alliance. He could not be too hasty. However, Li Zongjiu's actions were completely provoking the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. Su Yuliang took the deposit ticket from Li Zongjiu's hand. There were numbers written on it. 100,000. He wanted to buy the Mirror Moon Pavilion with a mere 100,000 gold coins. Chapter 216. In anyone's opinion, this would be an extremely stupid thing to do. How could such a thing succeed? It was obvious just thinking about it. However, looking at Li Zongjiu's expression, it was obvious that he wasn't joking. He was serious. If this matter didn't succeed, then Su Yuliang would probably be in trouble again. However, Su Yuliang also suddenly realized that he had become Li Zongjiu's subordinate. Just because the Su family had been defeated by Li Zongjiu, did they have to be restricted for the rest of their lives? This was too funny. How could I, Su Yuliang, let this happen? However, Su Yuliang only roared in his heart. When it was time for him to actually go on stage, his words took a 180-degree turn. "All right, I'll go inform them now." Su Yuliang turned around and left. If they fought to the death with the Li family, then the Su family would definitely be defeated. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. A great man knew when to yield and when to stand tall. Under such circumstances, he would pretend to be a coward for now. When the opportunity arose, he would definitely uproot Li Zongjiu and the Li family. He wanted to see how capable these country bumpkins were. Since Li Zongjiu had killed the Mirror Moon Tower Master, there was no way he could escape. Since he couldn't run away, he could only bring Li Zongjiu to the Dixian Merchant Alliance. This thing was just a challenge. How could he really buy it? Furthermore, this had nothing to do with Su Yuliang. So many people present had seen that Li Zongjiu had killed the Mirror Moon Tower Master. No matter what happened, the first unlucky person to suffer would be Li Zongjiu. Right now, Su Yuliang could only place all his hopes on the Dixian Merchant Alliance. When the big shots of the Dixian Merchant Alliance made their move, Li Zongjiu would have to wait for his death. "You are the guard captain here, right? Clean this place up. Everything will proceed as usual." Li Zongjiu glanced at the guard captain, who was at a loss of what to do. "Your old employer is dead. From now on, I will be your new employer. Everyone's salary will be doubled." His words were indifferent, but they brought incomparable excitement to these people. He was actually able to get double the salary. Wasn't this too awesome? They didn't do anything. Even when the old employer died, they didn't do anything. It was this choice that allowed them to receive double the salary. If they had acted just now, they would probably only be able to collect settlement fees. "Is what you said true?" the captain of the guards said in a deep voice. "My Li family's name is right here. How can it be fake?" Li Zongjiu said. Everyone else was cheering, but the guard captain didn't feel happy too early because he knew that this matter wasn't over yet. Unless Li Zongjiu could show his strength and prove that he could protect the Mirror Moon Pavilion, then he would be able to go against Dixian Merchant Alliance and even survive under the attack of Dixian Merchant Alliance. Li family. The Li family that destroyed the Green Snake Gang. The Li family that snatched the Xian or mining rights from the Su family. The Li family that trampled the three great thief kings under their feet. Some of the people present were shocked and they heard Li Zongjiu's words. This was because Li Zongjiu actually came from the Li family. Now, it wasn't a secret that the Li family wanted to enter Flying Cloud City. Even the things that they had done these days had been widely publicized. Under such a publicity environment, many people knew the name of the Li family. No matter what, the Li family had destroyed the Green Snake Gang. After all, it was a righteous act. In the eyes of the people in Flying Cloud City, this reputation was very trustworthy and admirable. Many people thought of many things. Li Zongjiu of the Li family had forcibly occupied the Mirror Moon Pavilion. Could it be that he was declaring war on the Dixian Merchant Alliance? The captain of the guards, Wang He, also gave the order to clean up the surrounding area. The corpses were moved away, and the bloodstains were wiped dry. Some of the marks or broken bricks on the floor were also cleaned and replaced. These things were done very skillfully. Although the owner of the Mirror Moon Pavilion was dead, the structure of the Mirror Moon Pavilion was still there. All the staff were still there, so there was no problem in operating normally. Some people who were refining pills in the alchemy rooms didn't even know that the Mirror Moon Pavilion had a new owner. That's why we shouldn't let people casually show off their strength. Look at how miserable they ended up. Someone looked at the cold corpse of Yi Baixiang and said. Li Zongjiu really didn't know why this person wanted to court death like this. It was obviously a very simple matter, but he had to provoke Li Zongjiu. If a person continued to be so self-righteous, then sooner or later, he would meet someone who could deal with him. Li Zongjiu was the person who had come to deal with Yi Baixiang. "You're called Xiao Chao, right? Bring me to the Supreme Alchemy Room," Li Zongjiu said. The Supreme Alchemy Room was the most expensive room in the Mirror Moon Pavilion. It was said to be able to refine grade 4 pills. Ordinary alchemy cauldrons couldn't withstand the spiritual energy of grade 4 pills. Once it exploded, the problem would be serious. If it wasn't serious, the cauldron would be destroyed. Needless to say, the pill wouldn't be preserved either. If it was serious, the person and the pill would die together. If the cauldron exploded at the end of the refinement of a grade 4 pill, the power of the explosion would be enough to raise everything within 100 meters of the Mirror Moon Pavilion to the ground. This was not a joke, but a real example. Many alchemists who were not strong enough wanted to forcefully refine elixirs. In the end, their bodies would explode and they would die. However, the Supreme Alchemy Room in the Mirror Moon Pavilion didn't have that kind of trouble. The Mirror Moon Pavilion had spent a lot of money to build such a signboard. However, after it was built, the effect wasn't very good, because no one could afford to rent it. Renting the Supreme Alchemy Room for a day would cost 6 million gold yuan. Who would want to refine pills with that kind of money? Therefore, the Alchemy Room was only a signboard. Normally, the owner of the Mirror Moon Pavilion would use it occasionally. However, just activating the Flame Yuan pattern array in the Supreme Alchemy Room would consume a large amount of energy ores. Therefore, under normal circumstances, no one would take the initiative to open it. This is the Supreme Alchemy Room. Xiao Chao brought Li Zongjiu to the third underground floor of the Mirror Moon Pavilion. Just like the Li family's alchemy building, it extended underground. The purpose of this was to make it easier to set up the Yuan pattern array. Secondly, if the cauldron really exploded, doing this would reduce the number of casualties. Otherwise, if the explosion were to spread, who knew how many people would be buried with it? If it was the third underground floor, it would at most be treated as an earthquake, and the losses wouldn't be great. Moreover, it could also effectively reduce the range of the explosion. After all, the surroundings were filled with thick soil. It wouldn't be that easy to charge out. Once this door is closed, no one outside will be able to hear the sound inside. If you want to come out, you need to open it from the outside. You just need to press the button on the wall, and the lights here will light up. Xiao Chao said. The Supreme Alchemy Room also had to be considered for safety. Therefore, the outside of the room was also made of steel plates and soil that were dozens of centimeters thick. With such a terrifying defense, even a Yuan general expert would find it difficult to escape if he was trapped inside. In the event of a disaster, this place would become the perfect place to take refuge. Chapter 217. Li Zongjiu looked at the array pattern below his feet. The power of the array pattern was extraordinary. It didn't seem like it could be carved by an ordinary person. If the person who had carved the array pattern was in Flying Cloud City, he would definitely be an extraordinary person. However, this wasn't a big deal. There were more than 1 million people in this city. Occasionally, a genius would appear. Of course, this didn't exclude the possibility of experts living in seclusion here. That would be extremely normal. As the array pattern revolved, all the power gathered in the medicine cauldron in the middle of the ground. This medicine cauldron was completely made of black gold. Black gold was a type of metal that was even more precious than gold. It was also mixed with some other things, so this black gold cauldron was able to withstand the high temperature. If this cauldron were to explode, the power would be enough to shatter everything in this secret chamber. Of course, the cauldron had to have such a large amount of power. Looks like there might be some experts in Di Xian Business Alliance. Or perhaps they used money to hire an expert. The craftsmanship of this black gold cauldron was definitely not something that could be produced in Flying Cloud City. There wasn't such a large workshop, nor was there such a talented person. They must have paid a hefty price to transfer the person over from somewhere else. This was the benefit of having an organization. Once the organization was established, it would be much easier for that person to gather his power. Li Zongjiu didn't care who the person was. The most important thing now was to refine a grade 4 elixir. In order to increase the strength of the Li family, he had to create at least a Sky Origin level powerhouse. Only then would he be able to ensure the safety of the Li family. The medicinal ingredients for the Siamese inner elixir had already been prepared. He laid them out one by one. In order to ensure the final success of the Siamese inner elixir, Li Zhongjiu even cut a small corner of a leaf from the heavenly pulse 7 stars. Even this small amount was enough to greatly increase the energy of the grade 4 elixir. Fire. Boom. When these yuan runes converged, a flame gushed out and landed below the black gold cauldron. Li Zhongjiu's yuan power also fused into it and began to control this powerful flame. As the flames burned, the temperature of the black gold cauldron continued to rise. In this enclosed space, Li Zhongjiu was also trying to concoct pills above his level. Even with the experience of his previous life and his current cultivation, Li Zhongjiu only had a 50% chance. However, in terms of alchemy, Li Zhongjiu's spirit from his previous life was that as long as he could not die from the refinement, he would refine until he died. No matter what the success rate was, as long as there was a chance, he would try. As long as he would not die from the explosion, he would dare to refine. And the consequence of having such a spirit was that this spirit had already become the spirit of the previous life. A 50% success rate is considered relatively high in pill forging. With the aid of these items, I should be able to control the success rate to above 60%. Li Zhongjiu took a deep breath and began to refine the elixir. As the temperature of the black gold cauldron continued to rise, one could even see that the air above the cauldron had already begun to change shape, forming waves of heat waves that continuously spread out. At this moment, in Flying Cloud City. As the only merchant alliance in Soaring Cloud City, the Di Xian Merchant Alliance was naturally worthy of the title of Overlord. If one joined the Di Xian Merchant Alliance, one would naturally be able to get a share of the profits in Soaring Cloud City. If one did not join and was not a vassal, one would not even be able to eat shit. For example, although the Su family did not join Di Xian Merchant Alliance, it was because they did not have the qualifications. However, they did not have the qualifications to join Di Xian Merchant Alliance. Before that, they had a good relationship with the Mirror Moon Tower Master and had a close relationship with each other. Most importantly, they would pay tribute. With a backer, they naturally had an easier time. There were a total of 10 directors in Di Xian Merchant Alliance. Together, they formed the board of directors and were in charge of various development matters of the Merchant Alliance. The most important thing was that every director of Di Xian Merchant Alliance had their own faction behind them. This faction also belonged to Di Xian Merchant Alliance. If a director suddenly died, the faction that he represented would have to nominate a new person to run for the director's position. If the candidate did not pass the election and could not take over the position, the faction would be divided up. Only in this way could the Merchant Alliance continue to grow. Some time ago, only one of the directors died. The forces behind him were divided up in just a few days. There was no other way. There was no successor. No one could gain a foothold in the Merchant Alliance. Naturally, they ended up like this. The director's position was still empty. Naturally, they would have to recruit someone. Originally, the Mirror Moon Tower Master had strongly supported the Su family and had even pointed out the path. Who would have thought that at this critical moment, Li Zhongjiu would suddenly appear and forcefully reverse the situation? This was extremely puzzling and shocking for anyone who saw this. A cooked duck had flown away. No one would be able to accept it if they were in Di Xian's shoes. The headquarters of Di Xian Merchant Alliance was also set up in the northern district of Flying Cloud City. In this place, the true 3 great clans were also located. The Su family and the Huang family were both located in the southern district. The real development and the most prosperous district was still in the northern district. Although they were both in the same city, the economic standards of the two districts might not be the same. The same watermelon could be sold for a high price of 10 silver coins in the northern district. However, in the southern district, it was estimated to be only 1 to 2 silver coins. in the northern district. Di-Xian Merchant Alliance was located in the center of the most prosperous main street, which was called Xuanwu Street. The Merchant Alliance had a special hall. Regardless of what business one had, one could come to Di-Xian Merchant Alliance for a match. There would naturally be merchants in the Merchant Alliance who would match up with one's resources. However, if such a transaction was successful, the Merchant Alliance would take a certain commission. Just the amount of commission each year could reach a considerable amount. As the 10 directors of the Merchant Alliance, they did not need to appear together under normal circumstances. They would only gather when there was an emergency or an important meeting. Su Yuliang looked at the door of Di-Xian Merchant Alliance. He had hesitated outside the door for a long time. Originally, he had made a solemn vow to hand over the 100,000 gold coins and convey Li Zongjiu's words. Then, he would complete the task and leave. However, once he reached this place, he already felt that something was wrong. He even had a feeling that if he went in, he would definitely not be able to come out alive. Chapter 218. Moon Mirror Pavilion. Li Zongjiu was concentrating on refining the Siamese inner elixir in his hand. Many medicinal herbs needed time to fuse with each other. Despite the high temperature, there was still a trace of coolness in the outside world. As expected of the Supreme Alchemy Room, Li Zongjiu took a look. This place was indeed well designed, but it was placed in the wrong place. How many people would be able to open such an alchemy room? However, as a signboard, it could also become an example among them. In front of the Moon Mirror Pavilion, everything proceeded as usual and no one encountered any unexpected situations. Moreover, there did not seem to be any reaction from the Di-Xian Merchant Alliance. This also caused some of the workers in the Mirror Moon Pavilion to believe that the Mirror Moon Pavilion had already become the property of the Li family. Had the handover been completed just like that? Had the Li family really spent $100,000 to buy the Mirror Moon Pavilion? Baicang Medical Hall. When Bai Luoxue received this news, she was shocked. Li Zongjiu's style was really to do things his own way. He did not care about other things at all. If Li Zongjiu continues like this, he will provoke stronger enemies sooner or later. Bai Luoxue thought to herself. Apart from that, Bai Luoxue thought about it again and opened another document. There were 2 pieces of information recorded in this document. The city lord of Northern Medicine City was killed, and 3 of the 4 experts by his side had disappeared without a trace. The second piece of news was that 3 experts had visited the Li family in Luoxia City a few days ago. They should have come to the Huang Yuan mine by now. Is this a coincidence? Or was it a foreshadowing? Impossible. With the Li family's strength, it is impossible for them to plant such chess pieces. The only explanation is that Li Zongjiu has really subdued the 3 of them. Bai Luoxue's eyes flashed with shock. The establishment of the white net was not part of Li Zongjiu's plan. Therefore, Bai Luoxue didn't tell Li Zongjiu about it. Right now, she had the ability and confidence to develop the white web underground. However, it was not that simple to accomplish this task. But now, it seemed that Li Zongjiu's strength was far beyond what he had imagined. He was almost at the level of omnipotence. At the very least, Bai Luoxue had not seen Li Zongjiu fail or suffer any losses. He was almost invincible. If others are involved, the white net will definitely not be pure. Bai Luoxue had already made up her mind. The more it was like this, the more she had to hide the white net in the dark. The fewer people who knew about it, the safer she would be. Thinking of this, Bai Luoxue's eyes shone with determination. Flying Cloud City will become the Li clan's battlefield. If the information is true, then Flying Cloud City will also become the Li clan's backyard. The 3 experts from Northern Medicine City who had come to seek refuge with them were enough to dominate Soaring Cloud City. In addition, the Li family was here. As long as they did not offend the City Lord Mansion or involve the authorities, everything would be fine. However, Given Li Zongjiu's character, he would not be afraid even if they were involved. After all, the city lord mansion of Northern Medicine City had something to do with Li Zongjiu. Young miss, the latest news. A maidservant quickly ran over and handed over a scroll. Bai Luoxue sat there and opened the dossier. Not good. The Di Xian Merchant Alliance has sent Black Blood Deacons to take back the Mirror Moon Pavilion. Quickly send someone to the Huang Yuan mine and inform the Li family patriarch. Bai Luoxue realized the seriousness of the matter and gave the order without hesitation. Black Blood Deacons. They were cold-blooded killers raised by the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. Before joining the Black Blood Deacons, these people would bathe in Black Dog's blood and turn their aura into darkness. Anyone who heard the name of the Black Blood Deacons would be terrified. Because they only had one mission when they appeared, and that was to eliminate the enemy. He would never show mercy, and would never leave anyone alive. He would kill without mercy. Those who could be chosen as Black Blood Deacons were nurtured with great effort in terms of cultivation. Everyone's strength was at the peak of the Master Realm. The report did not mention how many Black Blood Deacons were sent. It only showed that the Su family had been wiped out. When Su Yuliang walked into the Di Xian Merchant Alliance and explained this matter, he had lost all his value. War was cruel. Moreover, the competition in business was even more bloody and vicious. In front of the Mirror Moon Pavilion. When 6 people dressed in black with a blood-red token at their waists walked into the Mirror Moon Pavilion, everyone was stunned. Where is Li Zongjiu? The leader asked. His tone was cold and filled with bone-deep pain. Hearing this person's words, Xiao Chao also stepped forward, trembling. In the Supreme Alchemy Room. Close the door. The door of the Mirror Moon Pavilion was closed. The captain of the guards, Wang He, also looked at the scene in front of him and did not say anything. He only reminded everyone to put down their weapons. The identities of these people were already clear from their attire. They were cold-blooded killers specially trained by the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. When they were sent, it was when the Di Xian Merchant Alliance was too lazy to negotiate with you. Since the Li family could not be controlled by them, they might as well make you disappear. A rookie like Li Zongjiu who did not know any rules wanted to disrupt the situation in Feiyin City. What a joke. The higher-ups of the Di Xian Merchant Alliance did not take Li Zongjiu seriously at all. He was just a bunch of arrogant and mischievous children. Sending these Black Blood Deacons was already thinking highly of Li Zongjiu. Lead the way. The leader of the Black Blood Deacons said indifferently. 2 people were left to wait in the hall to prevent anyone from causing trouble. No one was allowed to leave. They could only wait until the Black Blood Deacons cleaned up everything. Only then could they leave. The 4 men in black entered the 2nd floor of the basement. Xiao Chao walked in front and led the way with fear. The Black Blood Deacons had another advantage. They never killed anyone outside of their mission. Of course, if they obstructed the mission, they would naturally be targeted. As long as Xiao Chao cooperated, the Black Blood Deacons would never hurt her. It's here, Xiao Chao pointed at the thick stone door in front of them. The leader of the Black Blood Deacons stepped forward. The stone door could be opened, but after it was opened, there would definitely be a fierce battle. It would be good if they could complete the mission without bloodshed. Activate the Yuan pattern formation inside to self-destruct. Chapter 219. Self-destruction mode. This was a mechanism specially set up to prevent the core techniques of the Yuan pattern array from falling into the hands of others, or to prevent the Supreme Alchemy Room from being occupied by others. Once it was activated, the Yuan pattern array would immediately shatter. Moreover, during the process of self-destruction, it would create an extremely destructive force. The power of this Yuan pattern array was enough to seriously injure a peak-level Yuan general expert. Previously, they had received information that Li Zongjiu was able to kill the master of the Mirror Moon Tower. This meant that Li Zongjiu was somewhat capable. If they could use this method to kill Li Zongjio, it would naturally be a good thing. They were assassins, but they were not weapons. When assassins killed people, they did not necessarily need to use their weapons. Sometimes, it was very normal for them to use some schemes. Xiao Chao's entire body trembled. I don't know. I don't know, Xiao Chao's face was filled with terror. If this method was mastered by everyone, it would be very easy for others to take advantage of it. If this competitor came and detonated this thing, then even if the Mirror Moon Tower killed him, it would be useless. You don't know. How dare you obstruct the Black Blood Deacon's work? Kill. The leader coldly glanced at Xiao Chao. As soon as he finished speaking, someone stepped forward from behind him. With a swoosh, he killed Xiao Chao with a single slash. Plop. Xiao Chao's body involuntarily fell to the ground. These Black Blood Deacons were cold and merciless. The reason why everyone was afraid of the Black Blood Deacons was because, during the process of carrying out the mission, if you did not do as they wished in the slightest, you would be treated as an accomplice and killed as well. Go and find someone who understands. Yes. One of the Black Blood Deacons turned and left. Soon, he brought an old man over. This old man was the Yuan pattern repairman of the Mirror Moon Tower. Within the Mirror Moon Tower, there were dozens of pill-fire Yuan pattern arrays of various sizes. It was inevitable that some problems would occur. Therefore, they needed an Yuan pattern maintenance master to oversee this place. If there was a small problem, they might not need a real Yuan inscription master to fix it. These maintenance masters also had the same ability. However, their mental power cultivation was inferior to a real Yuan inscription master, so it was difficult for them to inscribe Yuan inscription arrays. However, the knowledge on these elemental marks was equally abundant. An elderly elemental pattern technician was operating on a stone platform at the side. He used a light brush that emitted elemental pattern aura to draw on the stone platform. Xiao Cao's corpse was still lying on the ground. She died with her eyes wide open and blood had already flowed all over the ground. The old man's hands trembled when he saw this. As his hand trembled, a knife was placed on the old man's neck. You'd better be able to complete it, or your head will fall off. The old man hurriedly increased the speed of his hand movements. After a series of operations, the array disc controlled by the Yuan rune array on the stone platform exploded with a bang. In this way, the Yuan rune array would definitely shatter. When the Black Blood Deacons saw this, they sneered coldly. Great! Great! Great Lord, I have completed it, well done. Go! The Black Blood Deacon leader patted the old man's shoulder. The old man hurriedly ran towards the exit as if he had been granted amnesty. However, he had only taken a few steps when he felt a chill on his back. It was as if something had leaked out. His entire body fell to the ground with a plop. You don't keep your word. The old man pointed at the Black Blood Deacon and roared. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a knife light sweep towards him. Swoosh! The old man's head flew to the side like a rubber ball. To these Black Blood Deacons, killing a person was not a big deal at all. As long as they were on the move, it would usually be a bloodbath. It was a great disaster for anyone. The Di Xian Merchant Alliance controlled such a cold-blooded troop. Therefore, it naturally became a powerful deterrent within the alliance. The entire Merchant Alliance's power was used to support this troop. One could imagine how much resources they had invested. Naturally, they had to achieve a corresponding effect. This time, it was also to deter the restless families. At the same time, it was also to prove their status in Flying Cloud City. The three of you stay here and wait. Once the fire is over, bring the kid's body out, the Black Blood Deacon leader said. The leader of the Black Blood Deacons said. He then turned around and walked upstairs. There was really no need for him to stay here and guard this place personally. Yes. Rest assured, great lord. Only the 3 black blood deacons were left behind to wait. At this moment, Li Zongjiu, who was in the secret chamber, had already reached the point where he was about to break through. He had already cultivated this pill to the critical point, and was about to succeed. But who knew that this pill was going to be completed soon? However, there seemed to be a problem with the yuan pattern array. The flames were extinguished instantly. It almost destroyed the elixir in the cauldron. Fortunately, Li Zongjiu reacted quickly. He frantically released the yuan energy in his body. At the same time, he threw a blood bead into the flames. Boom! The burning of the blood droplet instantly produced a wild and violent energy that directly charged into the medicinal cauldron. What's going on? Li Zongjiu stabilized this wave. However, what happened next was something that Li Zongjiu did not expect. The yuan marks carved on the ground were actually continuously glowing at this moment. Although Li Zongjiu wasn't proficient in the cultivation of yuan inscription arrays, he knew what was going on. The yuan pattern array is going to self-destruct? Is someone playing tricks? Li Zongjiu did not expect that someone would be so bold as to play tricks in front of him. Li Zongjiu would definitely not let this person go. However, the most important thing for Li Zongjiu now was to refine the elixir. Since you want to explode, I'll use you as my cauldron. Li Zongjiu had always been bold. At this moment, he slammed his palm on the ground. At the same time, the black gold cauldron in front of him was kicked. The black gold cauldron changed its direction and smashed onto the ground with a bang. The mouth of the cauldron was facing down. White dragon origin spirit, lend me a hand. Li Zongjiu roared in his heart. Soon, the white dragon origin spirit in his body emerged. In Li Zongjiu's eyes, a white dragon was revealed. Boom! Li Zongjiu's mental energy instantly soared. Like an octopus, he directly absorbed all the energy in his body into the surrounding ground. He gathered all the energy of the elemental marks. The elemental marks were also burning to a peak. With the guidance of the mental energy, he guided all the energy into the black gold cauldron. Boom! The strong energy was like a destructive storm, instantly engulfing the surrounding area. Even with such a thick wall of cement and steel, one could still feel the destructive aura coming from inside. The entire Mirror Moon Pavilion shook. Dust fell. It was like a strong earthquake. It was like the vibration caused by the huge rocks that weighed tens of thousands of tons falling on the ground. A trace of smoke and dust seeped out from the crack. The 3 black blood deacons also looked over. The people inside should be deader than dead, right? As he spoke, he stepped forward and gave the wall a gentle push. However, he realized that the thick and heavy wall was only left with a thin layer of protection. Everything inside had been blown to smithereens. The ground had collapsed from the explosion. Fortunately, the floor had been reinforced to a certain extent. The amount that had sunk was not much. Ding, what is this? It seemed that he had stepped on a piece of metal. However, the surface of the metal still carried a trace of heat. Finally, he bent down and picked up the metal piece, only to find that under the metal piece, there was something strange. Under the metal, there was a round and smooth piece of energy that emitted a trace of radiant light. Just the fluctuation on the surface was enough to prove that this thing was an elixir. Moreover, its level was not low. When he saw the elixir, the black blood deacon's breathing became hurried. Chapter 220. This elixir was at least 10 times stronger than the elixirs they had taken in the past. Just the aura emitted from the surface of this elixir was enough to make one feel refreshed after taking a few breaths. This is. The other 2 also saw the elixir. This elixir is of an extraordinary grade. It's impossible to refine the elixir after the cauldron was blown to such an extent. After the older man finished speaking, the tone of his voice was extremely obvious. He and the other person seemed to be discussing something with each other. Suddenly, the two men stretched out their hands and slashed down with their blades. Clang! The man who first discovered the elixir reacted quickly. He drew out his weapon and blocked the slash. However, the other man's blade was unable to block it. He could only watch as the blade slashed towards his head. Crash! A head flew up and rolled on the ground. At this moment, no matter where the head was chopped, there was a chance of survival. Only when the head was chopped off would it all end. Then all of this will come to an end. Even if you have 3 heads and 6 arms, it will be useless. Although they were all colleagues, everyone had to become stronger in such an environment in order to stand out among the black blood deacons and even survive. If one wasn't strong enough, they would have been killed and exiled long ago. Therefore, every opportunity to become stronger was very precious. Even if they were facing their former colleagues and teammates, killing them was the same as killing them. There was no affection between them. To be able to survive in such a situation, they had to rely on their own strength. The only thing they believed in was the blade in their hands. The power of this elixir is extraordinary. The leader is not here at the moment, so only the 2 of us know about it. No one would have thought that the elixir could still be refined after the cauldron was blown to such an extent. There's no need to say anything more between us. We'll split the elixir in half, but leave it with me first. How about it? The older man said. In terms of strength, he was stronger than the other man. From the looks of it, it was not the first time the 2 of them had done such a thing. As they spoke, the 2 of them were obviously wary of each other. If the black blood deacons killed each other because of these resources, they would definitely not be able to survive if they were exposed. Whether they could survive or not was secondary. The main thing was that they would not be able to get anything in the end. The loss would definitely outweigh the gain. The other man pondered for a moment, then nodded and said to the older man in a deep voice. If that's the case, I'll listen to you. The older man's lips curled into a smile. No matter what, they had to get the elixir first. As for splitting it equally, this kind of thing was impossible. If it were just some small things that were worth a little money, then it wouldn't be a big deal to give away some of it. But the pills in his hands were different. But the elixir, it would bring an earth-shaking change. The world. If they could get their hands on the elixir and refine it, it might not be impossible for them to break free from the imprisonment of the black blood deacons. The opportunity to change their fate was right in front of them. How could they give it up? In fact, neither of them would give up. It was just that they had different plans. Don't worry. As long as I'm here, I won't let anyone hurt you. Just as the older man was about to pick up the elixir, a black hand appeared. He saw a hand that was charred black picking up the elixir. Then, he placed it in his hand, blew off the dust on it, and looked at it carefully. There seemed to be a trace of satisfaction in his eyes. Fortunately, it's not damaged. I'm afraid you won't be able to take this elixir away today. Li Zongjiu placed the elixir into a porcelain bottle. His body was already charred black, and his entire body was charred. The extent of the damage was simply unimaginable. Originally, Li Zongjiu might have been able to avoid the explosion. However, when he thought of his ancient golden body technique, he chose to give up at the last moment. Instead, he used his own body to bear the impact of the explosion. That powerful explosion almost destroyed Li Zongjiu's entire body. It was as if he was continuously rolling in the sea of fire. From head to toe, his entire body had been completely cleansed by the flames. At this moment, Li Zongjiu could feel the aura of death. However, after struggling for a while, he finally climbed out of this hell. Li Zongjiu lowered his head and glanced at his charred skin. Li Zongjiu wiped off the charred skin on the surface of his body. Not only his arm, but the charred skin all over his body was easily wiped off like a piece of burnt paper. Only the white and tender skin on his hand was left. Even Li Zongjiu couldn't believe that his skin had become so tender. Could such tender skin kill people? The sudden appearance of Li Zongjiu had also brought them great shock. Just now, such a huge explosion had occurred inside, but this Li Zongjiu was actually not killed by it. What was this guy's body made of? If it wasn't for the fact that he looked so much like a human. They even suspected that Li Zongjiu was an evil spirit that had walked out of hell. The two of them looked at each other. Without any unnecessary communication, they drew their swords and stepped forward. You are Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu was the target of their mission today. It could be said that all these people died because of Li Zongjiu. Although Li Zongjiu wasn't the one who killed them, he still had to bear some responsibility. Although I don't know who you are, you disturbed my alchemy. Go to hell. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. The two of them didn't hesitate when they heard this. They directly charged at Li Zongjiu from the left and right. The pill was in Li Zongjiu's hands. As long as they killed Li Zongjiu, they would be able to get the pill. In this way, the death of the other person could be explained clearly. They could say that Li Zongjiu killed that colleague. The perfect plan was about to unfold. The two of them attacked, but Li Zongjiu didn't panic when he saw this. They were just two people at the Yuan master level. Could it be that they could cause any trouble in front of him? Li Zongjiu directly stretched out his hand. Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and easily grabbed the throat of one of them. His speed was as fast as lightning. No one would have thought that Li Zongjiu's speed would be so fast. Wasn't he just a young man? Moreover, in the explosion just now, he should have suffered some injuries. In fact, Li Zongjiu's strength had increased after experiencing that destructive explosion. Die! The other person suddenly attacked. The blade in his hand was aimed at Li Zongjiu's neck. However, an extremely clear breaking sound was heard. Clang! The neck was still there, but the blade was broken. Chapter 221. What? The dark blood blade in his hand was forged from blood ore. It was bloodthirsty and violent. The more people it killed, the sharper the dark blood blade in his hand. However, this dark blood blade that had absorbed the blood of countless people could not even cut through Li Zongjiu's neck. Generally speaking, the neck was the softest part of the body. Moreover, it was also the most difficult part to heal. After an assassin's throat was cut, there was basically no hope. This guy is a monster. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Li Zongjiu twist his fingers and twist his companion's head off. He turned around and was about to escape. However, he felt a strong wind whistling behind him. His companion's head directly hit his head with a bang. The two heads collided, and the person who was hit fell to the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was already dizzy. Just this impact alone was enough to make him faint. After falling to the ground, he continued to crawl forward. He knew that once he stopped, only death would await him. Even if he crawled, it would only waste a little more energy. Li Zongjiu stepped forward and stomped on the man's head. After changing his clothes, Li Zongjiu walked out of the door of the alchemy room. It could not even be considered a door anymore. It was blown to smithereens. When he walked out, he saw a corpse lying in front of him. It was Xiao Chao, who had led him here. Killed by these people. Seeing this scene, Li Zongjiu was not very angry. After all, Xiao Chao was not a member of the Li family. Most importantly, in this world where the strong preyed on the weak, if you were not strong enough, it was a mistake. Anyone could devour you. The one to blame was not others, but yourself. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu blamed others. He only blamed himself for being weak and unable to protect his family. Therefore, in this life, Li Zongjiu would not let the same thing happen. He, evil Lord Li Zongjiu, would lead the entire Li family and spread their wings. No one in the entire continent would dare to provoke them. You're courting death. Li Zongjiu walked up the stairs. The large-scale explosion in the Mirror Moon Pavilion naturally caused quite a commotion. However, The doors of the Mirror Moon Pavilion were tightly shut and there was a blood-red token hanging on the door. When they saw this token, even the city guards had to take a detour. After all, this was Di Xian Merchant Alliance's business. Who would dare to mess around? About 100 meters away from the Mirror Moon Pavilion, there was a restaurant called the Purple Firmament Pavilion. The top floor had a wide view, and only the nobles of the city were allowed to enter. At this moment, there were two people standing at the top of the Purple Cloud Tower, looking at the retreating city guards, the tightly shut Mirror Moon Tower, and the blood-red token hanging at the entrance of the Mirror Moon Tower. His eyes seemed to be extremely satisfied with everything that was happening in front of him. You've spent a lot of effort to create this Black Blood Deacon group. Now that our Di Xian Merchant Alliance has expanded to such a level, the next step is to gather our strength and enter the Heavenly Cauldron City. This Mirror Moon Pavilion has been monopolizing the benefits of the Merchant Alliance for too long, and is unwilling to contribute. In the end, she wants to take a share of the profits. She's dreaming. One of them held a cup of wine in his hand, and there was a dissatisfied expression in his eyes. At the same time, he also had a satisfied expression at the scene before him. This operation is swift and decisive. How much you can take is your business. My mission has already been completed. The other person was also wearing black clothes, and there was also a blood-red token hanging on his waist. This person was the leader of the Black Blood Deacon group. To be able to train such a cold-blooded troop, one could imagine that this old man was not a warm-hearted person. Although he was in charge of the Black Blood Deacon group, in reality, this leader was not listed as one of the 10 directors of the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. In the Di Xian Merchant Alliance, he was only obedient. After many years of obedience, this old man, who had hidden his fangs, gradually released the viciousness in the darkness. He had to fight his way out in such a situation. The identity of the old man, who was standing beside him and holding a wine cup, was obvious. He was one of the 10 directors of the Di Xian Merchant Alliance, and also the person in charge behind Lin Jitang. Lin Jitang occupied 80% of the sales of spiritual herbs and spiritual medicine in Flying Cloud City, and there were branches in all the major streets. They hired servants to go up the mountain to gather herbs, and the price of the herbs was extremely low. If they did not sell the herbs to them, they could forget about selling them in Flying Cloud City. At the very least, this was how it was in the spiritual medicine industry. The selling price was more or less the same as usual, but sometimes, when one continued to use a certain high-grade herb, the price would increase by a few times. Originally, there were at least 3 or 4 big herb suppliers in Flying Cloud City. Until now, Lin Jitang was the only one who was the biggest supplier. And this was Lin Jitang's hall master, Lin Baoquan. There were not many people who could call the wind and summon the rain in Flying Cloud City, and Lin Baoquan was one of them. In addition to handling Lin Jitang's matter, Lin Baochuan's son and the daughter of the sect leader of Flying Snow Sword Sect completed the marriage. Flying Snow Sword Sect. It was close to 700 miles away from Flying Cloud City. Similarly, within 1,000 miles, it was also the #1 sect, and there were few rivals. With such a background, in addition to his own strength, he had a lot of weight in the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. Lin Baoquan could cover the sky with one hand. This time, the news of Su Yuliang was directly intercepted by Lin Baoquan, and he gave the order to kill the entire Su family, leaving no one alive. He directly placed the Su family on the same level as the Li family. It was because of this that he had enough reason to destroy the Su family, and he would definitely kill Li Zongjiu. After that, it would be the Li family. In Flying Cloud City, the Huang family and the Su family had already lost their power. As long as he destroyed the Li family. Then, in this city, the next force that had a chance to enter the Di Xian Merchant Alliance would be the family that he supported. Every party would use all means to cultivate their own forces in order to gain a foothold in the Merchant Alliance, and even monopolize the power. In the Merchant Alliance, the competition was equally intense. Perhaps at the beginning of the establishment, they might work together. However, after the situation stabilized, the various forces would fight openly and secretly, and even backstab each other. This kind of behavior was too common to count. Hence, if a merchant alliance wanted to maintain for a long time, it had to be led by a big shot, and the people below would not dare to move. Only then would it be able to last. If everyone was on equal footing, everyone could see the moment when they were in power. By then, it would be a real bloodbath. Chapter 222. The two of them were watching the show from outside the restaurant. The lower floors of the Purple Cloud Tower were filled with experts in black robes and blood plates. Their faces were cold. At this moment, their troops were gathered because they were going to destroy the Li family today. Li Zhongjiu was ambushed. The Li family would definitely not sit still and come to rescue him. The people they were waiting for were the Li family members. On the Huangyuan or mountain. The members of the Li clan who had received the news also rushed over at top speed. Li Zhongjiu was alone in the city. He would definitely be chased by the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. No matter what, they had to send someone to rescue him. Otherwise, Li Zhongjiu would be in great danger. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu put down everything in his hands and did not bring many people with him. Only Li Gui had brought a small team with him. Xiaoye and the other three had followed him. The three of you, quickly go to the Mirror Moon Tower and save Li Zhongjiu. Li Tianqing remembered the secret weapon that Li Zhongjiu had told him. It was supposed to be a secret weapon, but at this critical moment, he could not care less. Immediately, Luo Sha and the other two hurriedly split into two and stepped on the back of the horse. Their figures soared into the sky. The aura of a Yuan general expert was released. Li Gui and the others were dumbstruck when they saw this scene. These people were actually so strong. They were like three black birds that disappeared in the sky and flew far away in an instant. Boom! Boom! The three of them were as fast as lightning in the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Li Tianqing was left in shock. Fuck, how did these three experts get in? This kid is really capable. He must hold on. This damn Di Xian Merchant Alliance. I haven't done anything to you, but you dare to attack me first. There was a trace of anger in Li Tianqing's eyes. Originally, Li Tianqing's strategy was to make progress while maintaining stability. At the very least, he had to stabilize the price of the Xian or temporarily. Once the business was connected, it would be easier for him to expand. At this level, there was no need to provoke the Merchant Alliance. In fact, if these people wanted to take some benefits, Li Tianqing would be willing to give it to them. However, now that they wanted to deal with his son, Li Tianqing naturally refused. Patriarch, is this information reliable? Li Gui raised a little doubt. If this was a trap or something, then wouldn't it directly put Li Tianqing in danger? Or it could be said that they didn't even catch the young master at all. Things happened so suddenly that he didn't have time to verify the information because there was no time left. There's no time to verify it. There's no need to be afraid. Just charge in. My Li clan isn't a pushover. If anyone wants to kill me, I'll see how fast his blade is. Inside the Mirror Moon Pavilion, Li Zhongjiu came to the ground. The people in the Mirror Moon Pavilion were all stripped of their weapons and locked in a room. At the same time, they were also released with poisonous smoke. Everyone was poisoned until they fainted. The entire Mirror Moon Pavilion was cleared. In fact, this time, the Black Blood Deacons came to set up this trap to trap the people from the Li clan. However, they didn't expect that someone would send out the information in advance. Therefore, Li Tianqing and the others came faster than they expected. However, although they came quickly, there wasn't much difference. Logically speaking, Li Zhongjiu should be dead. The ones who came up now should be his subordinates. However, the remaining three Black Blood Deacons were stunned. Li Zhongjiu's hair was a little messy, but it was clean. He walked up to them and stood in front of them. Shouldn't this kid have been killed by the explosion? The explosion just now was real. Even if there was a secret passage or something like that, it would have been blown to smithereens. Therefore, when they saw Li Zongjiu, the three of them were shocked. However, it wasn't strange that the three black blood deacons didn't make it back. So it's you guys who did this? Li Zongjiu looked at the empty hall. There seemed to be some bloodstains on the ground. The blood was fresh, but it showed signs of coagulation after a while. It was done by the people in front of him. They must have killed a lot of people. Li Zongjiu. Very good. You came out alive. I'm very interested in you. However, it's a pity that you'll die here today. The black blood deacon said indifferently. The two subordinates quietly scattered to the sides. One of them was holding a crossbow and a short knife at his waist. His eyes were sharp and he had already locked onto Li Zongjiu's aura. With just a command, the crossbow in his hand could turn Li Zongjiu into a hedgehog. The other person held a knife with both hands. The bloody knife in his hand was a lengthened version. It was longer than an ordinary person's knife. These black blood deacons had their own unique style and fighting style. Therefore, it was difficult to study them specifically. The black blood deacon group was also difficult to be understood by others. Being unable to be understood by the enemy and being flexible was the wisest way to protect oneself. Kill him. The leader was also on full alert. However, he didn't make a move. There was no need for him to do such a thing. Li Zongjiu should have been a dying man. However, he came back to life. This was a failure in the mission. However, in front of him, Li Zongjiu couldn't escape. Li Zongjiu didn't think so. Facing the pincer attack from the two of them, he turned around at this moment. You guys have a safe trip. At such a critical moment of life and death, he actually dared to pretend to be strong. This was his most fatal weakness. When they saw Li Zongjiu turn around, the two black blood deacons were already prepared to attack. However, just as they were about to release the arrow, something that only needed a thought and a finger to do, they didn't know why they couldn't control their fingers. The black blood deacon glanced at his fingers. At this moment, he could see his broken wrist. My hand. These words only formed in his mind. He didn't say it out loud. Puchi. Blood spurted out from his wrist. Luo Sha's 5 fingers were as sharp as an eagle's. They easily chopped off the black blood deacon's hand. The moment the blood spurted out, the black blood deacon didn't feel any pain. No. Luo Sha stretched out his 5 fingers again and easily chopped off the black blood deacon's 2 arms. Blood flowed all over the ground. Ah! Boom! Another figure, Setting Sun, rushed in and stabbed the chest of the black blood deacon who was holding a long saber. If one were to talk about ruthlessness, these bandits weren't much weaker than these people. What? When the leader saw this scene, he knew that an expert had come. He couldn't stay here for long. However, when he turned around, he saw that a sharp sword was already pointed at his forehead. Killing intent instantly appeared. Chapter 223. It all happened in the blink of an eye. 3 experts had charged into the Mirror Moon Tower. Li Zongjiu had left a mark in their souls, so he could clearly sense them when they approached. This should have happened not long ago, and he did not send out any signal. How did they know? But since they were here, he would leave it to them to deal with. He did not have to do it himself. If he had to do everything himself, Li Zongjiu would not be able to do it even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. 2 of his subordinates were killed in an instant. They did not even have time to react. The 3 experts locked their auras on the last person. Even if this person had gone through a lot of training, he could not withstand so many murderous experts. I will only ask you once. Who are you? Li Zongjiu turned around. When it came to killing people like scything flax, he was the real ancestor. He did not care about the two corpses on the ground at all. From Li Zongjiu's eyes, he could see that if his answer did not satisfy him, he would lose his life. We are the Black Blood Deacons under the Di Xian Alliance. In the past, when he announced his name, this person was also full of pride and murderous intent. This name was like a mountain. No matter what kind of situation he was in, it would suppress the other party until they could not breathe. But at this moment, when he revealed his identity, there was a kind of regret and fear. Because if he was not careful, he would be beheaded. Such an outcome was really too terrifying. He did not dare to think further. Black Blood Deacons? What is that? Li Zongjiu had never heard of it, but Li Zongjiu knew about the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. So you are from the Di Xian Merchant Alliance. You are really brave to take the initiative to provoke me. Li Zongjiu also nodded. Since these people wanted to present their necks to him, he wanted to see if Li Zongjiu had the guts to make a move. Then, Li Zongjiu naturally had to make a move and perform a killing for them to see. Let me go, and I'll let your Li clan escape this calamity, that person said. With his identity, he might really have such strength, but for him, he only needed to win a little bit of trust to give him time to leave this place. Hee, does my Li clan need to flee? Li Zongjiu couldn't help but laugh. Take his head. As soon as he finished speaking, Changhe did not hesitate to chop off his opponent's head. It was too late for him to escape. When his head was chopped off, his eyes were filled with fear and unwillingness. After killing the man, Li Zongjiu opened the door. With a clang, the blood-red token fell to the ground. How dare they close the door and do things so arrogantly? Li Zongjiu sighed at the arrogance of these people. They just hung a token on the door, and they killed wantonly inside. Such behavior was extremely arrogant in Li Zongjiu's eyes. This matter, I'm afraid it's not so simple. Then, Li Zongjiu looked into the distance and immediately saw the purple cloud tower. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu was a top expert. He was also very sensitive to killing intent. Even if you were 100 meters away, as long as you leaked out a little bit of killing intent, it would be enough to be caught by others. Even experts at Li Zongjiu's level had such ability. This was the experience accumulated over many years. Ordinary people could not learn it. At this moment, in the purple cloud tower, a murderous aura was brewing. A large group of assassins sat there. How could it be simple? The three of you, take down that restaurant. Li Zongjiu said to the three of them. As his voice fell, the three of them moved and rushed toward the purple cloud tower. Boom! Boom! Their figures rushed up, and the surroundings felt as if a gust of wind was blowing. With the strength of the three of them, there was probably no one in Flying Cloud City who could stop them. Lin Baoquan was waiting to watch the show in the purple cloud tower. However, just a moment ago, something seemed to have happened. The leader of the Black Blood Deacons beside him could not help but stand up. He frowned and stared in the direction in front of him. It seemed as if he wanted to see something, but in the process, Li Zongjiu swaggered out of the Mirror Moon Tower. How is this possible? Lin Baoquan cried out involuntarily. However, as soon as his voice fell, he saw three figures rushing toward the two of them. They discovered them. They were so far away, and they did not even make any movements. How could they be discovered? Could it be that the people inside leaked the news? However, this was also impossible. How could they know about this place? Boom! A powerful airwave swept out. The purple cloud tower had a total of 4 floors. Luo Sha and the other two rushed in one by one. Not good. The leader of the Black Blood Deacons immediately realized that something was wrong. A series of collision sounds had already occurred in the restaurant below. Clang! 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 The golden saber broke, and blood splattered. Countless heads fell to the ground. The purple cloud tower was instantly filled with blood, and the bloody light soared into the sky. The leader of the Black Blood Deacons wanted to take action, but it was too late. When he went down, he saw the heads falling to the ground. The surrounding tables and chairs were also splashed with blood. The Purple Cloud Tower had become a scene of blood-stained elegance. The Xian Merchant Alliance had spent a lot of money to cultivate this elite troop. It was a sharp knife that was cultivated. They were all killed in such a short period of time. They were not at the same level at all. These Black Blood Deacons were only at the level of a Yuan Shi. There were one or two captains who had reached the level of a first-grade Yuan general. However, in front of Luo Sha, they all had the same ending. He easily took the lives of his opponents. In the eyes of Luo Sha and the other two, these people were just ants that could be easily killed. Blood was still dripping from Luo Sha's fingers. Lin Baoquan and the old man in black rushed down. Lin Baoquan's cultivation was at the level of a third-grade Yuan general. If there were so many Black Blood Deacons chasing after him, he could escape even if he had to pay the price of being seriously injured. However, it was almost impossible for him to kill them. However, in the pool of blood in front of him, it could be seen that these people did not have much room to fight back. They were basically crippled. Such a terrifying method was done by the person in front of him. There were a total of 3 people who had just charged over. Apart from that, the people on the 2 lower levels had also been completely wiped out. "You're courting death." The black-clothed old man let out a furious roar. The Black Blood Deacons was his life's work. Now that Luo Sha had destroyed it so easily, it was equivalent to destroying his life's work. It could be said that his life's work had been destroyed as well. "I'm going to kill you." The old man in black roared and his aura instantly exploded. Boom! A 6th-grade Yuan general. To think that they could actually find a level 6 origin general expert in Soaring Cloud City. In the Xian Merchant Alliance, the old man in black's strength could be ranked in the top 3. However, such strength was still not enough in front of Luo Sha. Luo Sha smiled coldly. His 5 fingers formed a claw and grabbed at the old man in black. Bang! In just 3 moves, the bones in the black-clothed old man's body were almost all broken. Chapter 225. The identity of the old man in black had given Wang He a limited amount of shock. After all, Wang He did not know this old man, let alone that he had the strength of a grade 6 prime general. However, the identity of this Lin Baoquan in front of him could not be any more familiar. He was an influential figure in Flying Cloud City. If the city lord had any major policies, these people would be needed to support them. Lin Baoquan was an extremely successful businessman. Lin Zhitang had more than 100 branches in Flying Cloud City. What kind of concept was this? Even if the turnover of one branch was only 10,000, it would still be 1 million in a day. In a month, it would be 30 million. In fact, the price of a grade 2 medicinal herb could reach thousands of gold yuan. One could only imagine the scale of this. At the same time, Lin Baoquan, the hall master of Lin Zhitang, was one of the most powerful people in Xian Merchant Alliance. There were more than 3 directors who were on good terms with him. Those who were not on good terms with him, such as the Mirror Moon Tower Master, were already one of them. There were even rumors that Lin Baoquan would become the next Merchant Alliance chief if there were no accidents. Such a character had actually died so easily. How many things had he missed out on when he was unconscious? Wang He could not help but feel regretful. Li Zongjiu had not told Wang He that there were still 40 to 50 corpses in the Purple Cloud Tower. If these corpses were moved out, it would be truly frightening. Perhaps Wang He would have a heart attack at such a young age. In short, Wang He believed in Li Zongjiu's strength. He had even killed Lin Baoquan directly. What else did the Li family not dare to do? Li Tianqing and the others killed their way into the Mirror Moon Tower. Knowing that Li Zongjiu had escaped, he heaved a sigh of relief. This city is dangerous. Don't act alone, Li Tianqing said with a frown. Li Tianqing said with a frown. He didn't know how many people were targeting them in the Flying Cloud City. If they weren't careful, then everyone would be finished. These people were all waiting to see the Li family get into trouble. When the time comes, they would clean up the Li family as well. It's good that the young master is fine. It's all our fault for not protecting him well. Li Gui said. If he had known earlier, he would have sent someone to follow Li Zongjiu. Otherwise, such a situation would not have happened. If there was someone to take care of him on the road, at least he could have used the Li family to settle this matter. Li Tianqing and the others soon found out that Li Zongjiu had gotten rid of the two directors of the Dixian Merchant Alliance. It was as if he had killed two hall masters in a gang. This matter was not simple. If the other party were to pursue her, the Li family would definitely face great pressure. But now that he had killed them, what else could these people do? Li Tianqing wasn't afraid at all. Since the other party had made the first move, there was nothing to be afraid of. Based on what happened today, it looks like the competition between us and the Dixian Merchant Alliance can't be avoided. Tell Bai Luoxue to quickly take action. Even if our opponent is a merchant alliance, we might not necessarily have no chance of victory. At this moment, Li Tianqing was holding a lot of money in his hands. The gold banknotes that Li Zongjiu had provided this time were worth more than 1 billion. This money was originally used to bribe the city lord of Northern Medicine City. Now, using it to bribe the forces in Flying Cloud City wasn't a problem at all. Since you have a foundation in this city, I'll use money to pave the way. Isn't it just a head-on confrontation? Who's afraid of who? Since the Mirror Moon Pavilion had been bought by Li Zongjiu, the owner of the Mirror Moon Pavilion directly died. Li Tianqing also arranged for an elder to go and handle the handover procedures. Now, it mainly depended on the attitude of the Dixian Merchant Alliance. If the Dixian Merchant Alliance wasn't willing to let go and insisted on fighting, then it would be a real war. However, the Dixian Merchant Alliance itself wasn't very united. Now that a total of 3 directors had died, a lot of things had happened. For example, Lin Zhitang had so many businesses. If no one collected the profits generated every day, it would become a mess. As for the forces in the city, Li Zongjiu didn't need to worry about them. Everything was handed over to Li Tianqing as the family lord. Whether or not he could lead the family further still depended on Li Tianqing's decision. Oh right, there's a girl's body in the second basement. Bring her out and bury her properly. In addition, give her family a settlement fee. Li Zongjiu said. He instructed Li Gui. Li Gui was also puzzled, but he didn't ask much and did as he was told. How's Aunt's injury? Li Zongjiu and Li Tianqing walked side by side. Since they were already here, they might as well have a meal in the city. They were usually very busy, so they didn't have the time to eat. Shen Xinxiao was still taking care of things in Guanxi town and couldn't come back in a short period of time. Now, Li Zongjiu was the only one who could talk to Li Tianqing. She's fine now. She'll recover after a few days of rest. We also found a mineral vein under the ruins. It's also Huang Yuan ore, but it's a little longer. It's enough for us to mine for about 10 years. Li Tianqing said. Originally, they thought that they had found an extremely precious mineral vein. In that case, the Li family would be able to make a fortune again. Most importantly, this kind of resource could be used as an industry to stabilize the situation and expand the scale. Making money was secondary. The most important thing was to make the money flow and continue to expand. Otherwise, the billions of gold coins in Li Tianqing's hands would be enough for him to spend. The Li family's expenses could last for at least 100 years. Who would want to work hard for it? However, if that was the case, it could be said that all of this would be wasted. Be prepared for danger in times of peace. Do you want me to get rid of Dixian Merchant Alliance today? Li Zongjiu asked. In Li Zongjiu's opinion, Dixian Merchant Alliance was not a threat at all. Therefore, If Li Zongjiu wanted to get rid of them, it would be a piece of cake. Before leaving, it was not impossible for him to help the Li family solve these problems first. This way, the Li family's development would be faster. No need. Di Xian Merchant Alliance has deep roots and has been entrenched in Flying Cloud City for many years. Now that our Li family has just entered, we still need a certain amount of external pressure to truly grow. Li Tianqing said. If Li Zongjiu were to directly eliminate the upper echelons of the Di Xian Merchant Alliance, it would naturally allow the Li family to rise rapidly. However, the obstacles they would face on this path would lessen, and the tempering and training they would have to undergo would also lessen. They had to be tempered through blood and fire in order to become a true Iron Man. Li Zongjiu was very optimistic about Li Tianqing's words. When are you leaving? Li Tianqing asked. Li Zongjiu was already prepared to leave for the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor's entrance exam. If he could not make it, he could only wait until next year. The journey there was still a long way to go. These days, he had also made some preparations for the Li family. Tomorrow. Chapter 226. The foundation of the Li family was almost done. The presence of the three of them was enough to form a powerful deterrent. If something really happened, the experts of the Snow Elixir sect would step in. Sect Master Chu Aoran couldn't just sit back and do nothing. After all, the Li family had given him a huge gift. No matter what, he owed the Li family a favor. This favor had to be repaid. The Li family and the others had a simple meal in a small noodle restaurant next to the Mirror Moon restaurant. Each person had a bowl of noodles. Including Xiaoye and the others, there were more than 20 bowls of noodles. Although the Li family and the others didn't seem to be easy to deal with, the owner of the noodle restaurant wasn't worried. These big shots didn't need to make things difficult for small people like them. They just needed to make the noodles well. The next morning, Li Zongjiu made a trip back to the Luoxia city. The Luoxia city was peaceful, and there were fewer disputes. The Li family and the Bai family were mainly focused on the distant Flying Cloud City. After taking over Flying Cloud City, it would be easier for them to expand their territory. As for the Sky Tripod City, it was the closest third-grade city. At the same time, it was also the benchmark among the third-grade cities. At this level, there would always be some standards. The Sky Tripod City was the pinnacle of third-grade cities. Just like the Azure Wave Giant City, it was definitely one of the best among the second-grade cities. If a family's business could enter the Sky Tripod City, it would be considered a success. However, countless business alliances could only wander around some small places. Even the Northern Medicine Alliance had never set foot in the Sky Tripod City. Naturally, the Sky Tripod City had become the target of the Li family. It would be a waste of resources if their sights were only limited to a place like Flying Cloud City. Li Zongjiu was naturally welcomed back to the Li family in the Luoxia city. However, a piece of bad news reached Li Zongjiu's ears. Wang Jing has left. For Li Zongjiu, this news was a bit shocking and a bit of a blow. Wang Jing had actually left without a word. Could it be that the path of his brother in his previous life was different in this life? However, Li Zongjiu quickly felt relieved after thinking about it. Wang Jing had been fighting all over the place since he was a child. Last time, it could be said that he had exposed his strength. Although the Li family had a certain degree of concealment, it was not absolutely safe. He had to leave on the spot. Therefore, Wang Jing's departure was a good thing for the Li family. Wang Jing had offended too many people. It could be said that even Li Zongjiu was not as good as him. It was obvious that Li Yun was extremely reluctant. Even when she found the farewell letter, she was at a loss and panicked. The standards of the Li family disciples had also improved greatly during this period of time. Compared to their previous year of hard work, Wang Jing's progress was much greater. However, Wang Jing had left halfway through teaching. Li Yun was originally very happy to see the talent of her family's disciples being stimulated. But now, he couldn't find a powerful person to teach them. Don't panic. Although your talent is ordinary, as long as you practice hard, you will definitely have a breakthrough. Li Zongjiu comforted the disciples in this way. Li Yun was speechless when she heard this. This young master was really good at conveying positive energy. Just this sentence alone had hit the fragile hearts of many. But when Wang Jing left, he left behind this book. Li Yun said. She took out a yellowed book and handed it to Li Zongjiu. When Li Zongjiu saw the yellowed book, his pupils shrank. He almost couldn't believe it. The significance of this book for Wang Jing was simply unimaginable. Even when he was eating or defecating, Wang Jing would take this book with him. It never left his side. What was written in this book was Wang Jing's understanding of alchemy and some of his usual cultivation methods. It could be said that this book recorded most of Wang Jing's wisdom. When Wang Jing became famous in the future, just this book alone was enough to make the major forces go crazy. In fact, it was even possible for them to kill each other and fight each other until their heads bled. Since he gave this book to you, you should keep it well. I will. Li Zongjiu nodded. Since Wang Jing had left, there was no need to delay any longer. Originally, he wanted to come back to pack his things and say goodbye to Wang Jing. Since Wang Jing had left, there was no need to wait. It had been a few months since his reincarnation. The increase in his strength was considered to be rather slow. What's more, Li Zongjiu had to master these two elemental arts. It wasn't easy to improve his strength. White God Fu. Ancient Golden Tyrant Body Art. All of them needed to go through hellish training to be able to improve. Li Yun found Li Zongjiu. She thought that Li Zongjiu had come back this time to take charge, but looking at Li Zongjiu's appearance, it seemed that he was going to leave directly. You're leaving? Yes. Li Zongjiu nodded. I'm going to participate in the assessment of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. I want to enter their library and find some secret alchemy books for you. Li Zongjiu looked at Li Yun, who was a little depressed, and couldn't help but say, hearing Li Zongjiu's words, Li Yun couldn't help but laugh. Kid, you're quite naughty. Are you happy to be naughty? She said it as if he had already entered Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Take care of your own safety. Don't get into conflict with others easily outside. In Luoxia City, there's a family. But outside, there's only you. You have to be careful. If something goes wrong, turn around and run. It's not shameful. Staying alive is the most important thing. Li Yun couldn't help but exhort. Li Zongjiu scratched his head. Why did these words sound like the words of a mother? But it was the most ordinary and sincere worry and concern that made Li Zongjiu feel the warmth of a family. This was also the reason why Li Zongjiu spent so much effort to protect the Li family, to arm the Li family, and to let the Li family have the ability to survive. The feelings between family members couldn't be faked. Of course, there were scums. For example, Li Changjiang. Li Zongjiu still didn't know where Li Zongjiu, who had one of his arms chopped off, was hiding. But Li Zongjiu definitely wanted to kill this person personally. In fact, it was very easy to find a person in the Shengyan dynasty. Heavenly Rain Pavilion. There were branches in all the big third-class cities. The intelligence of Heavenly Rain Pavilion was like a huge net that fell from the sky and recorded everyone's information. Even Li Zongjiu's troubles in Luoxia City had probably been recorded by Heavenly Rain Pavilion. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu had reached the peak because he knew about the background of Heavenly Rain Pavilion. Even the dynasty couldn't be touched. Heavenly Rain Pavilion was very law-abiding and they would never cross some boundaries. Chapter 227. He left Luoxia City. From Luoxia City, they headed towards the north. The first third-class city he passed was Kang City. It was about 800 miles away from Luoxia City. The disciple of Fog Snow Pill sect, Yang Hongyu, was a member of the Yang family in Kong City. However, Yang Hongyu was not an important disciple of the Yang family. The competition between these big families was quite fierce and dangerous. Therefore, people like Yang Hongyu, who was weak, would be sent away early to avoid being accidentally injured in the process. Otherwise, if something were to happen, it would be too late for regrets. Since he had already sent them away, he had also made his attitude clear. As long as they were obedient, and considering that they were related by blood, he would not be ruthless to them. No one would want a murderous maniac to be their leader. After spending 2 days on the road, Li Zongjiu rode a fast horse into Kong City's courier station. The horses were rented from this courier station. After paying a deposit, one could rent horses from various courier stations. These horses had a mark on them and they could be returned when the time came. After all, there was no need to buy a fast horse for a short journey. In Li Zongjiu's opinion, this method was very smart. Of course, this courier station was personally managed by the Shengyan dynasty. If the horse was lost, the deposit would naturally be deducted. Those who rented the horses were just small fries. With their strength, they would not dare to go against the Saint Flame Empire. They would be annihilated in a matter of minutes. You came from Luoxia City. That's strange. Someone came from that kind of place. The courier station took the horse and glanced at the mark on the horse's back. The information on it was clear. This horse came from Luoxia City. In the eyes of outsiders, Luoxia City was almost at the edge of the world. What could there be in such a borderland? There might not even be a proper hotel or inn on this street. In such a remote place, there was actually a handsome young man. This young man did not look like a country bumpkin. It was interesting. The deposit of 200 silver coins will be returned to you. The other 99 silver coins are the rental fee. You did not ride for 3 days, there is no discount. Hey, why did you leave? The courier station staff chased out but found that Li Zongjiu had already gone far. In Li Zongjiu's opinion, this small deposit was useless and a waste of time. Kong City was bustling with people and carriages. The pedestrians on the road were dressed more dignified. There was a gap in quality. There were many things on the road. Some acrobatic groups liked to show off their skills on the street. Some people who had cultivated a little bit of origin energy were able to do some shocking things. For example, they could take a deep breath and allow the spear tip to pierce through their throat without piercing through them. Needless to say, they could break a stone. Many people were just there to watch the show. After passing through the bustling streets of Kong City, Li Zongjiu walked directly to a tall, domed building. Inside this domed building was the most common and most well-hidden power on the continent. Rain Tower. Rain Tower was a place for information exchange. Here, all kinds of information could be exchanged. However, to obtain this information, one had to pay a certain amount of money. Many people would start from the Rain Pavilion if they wanted to recruit or kill someone. As long as one could afford the price, even killers could be hired. Li Zongjiu walked into the Heavenly Rain Pavilion. The exterior of Rain Tower was basically the same. It was very iconic. From the outside, it looked like a bun. The interior hall was extremely spacious. Once there was a gathering order, it would be overcrowded. Rain Tower announced to the public that it could accommodate up to 20,000 people at a time. It could connect with up to 50 groups and individuals at the same time. Their efficiency was much higher than that of some banks. Some banks were very fast if one wanted to deposit money. However, if one wanted to withdraw money, one had to line up obediently. In terms of service, it was especially bad. Rain Tower only opened 5 windows today. Many people were lining up in front to hand over their business. High up in the hall, there was a recommendation on the front page. Anyone could do these missions. However, if one wanted to hand in the mission, they had to line up. It was first come, first served. Li Zongjiu glanced at it and walked in a direction. He walked in front of a person. That person reached out and stopped Li Zongjiu. Sorry, friend. If you want to connect, please line up first. Li Zongjiu did not say anything. He took out 100,000 yuan banknote. This banknote was worth 100,000 gold yuan. When he saw the number on it, the person who stopped Li Zongjiu's eyes lit up. So it's a VIP. This way please. After receiving the banknote, he immediately became enthusiastic. The gloomy expression on his face disappeared. He turned around and led Li Zongjiu to the VIP room. Although Li Zongjiu could still enter after killing him, to be honest, if he were to start a fight with the Celestial Rain Pavilion now, the Li family would be annihilated once again. There was nowhere to run. After all, he was a seller of information. Seeing Li Zongjiu enter the VIP passage, the crowd started to complain. The crowd that was still queuing up also let out a bit of noisy grumbling. Damn it! Why did that gigolo go in first? How dare he? You better shut up. That's the VIP passageway, used to entertain distinguished guests. What VIPs? So what if you're rich? It's just some stinky money. If you have the ability, fight one-on-one. The person in front turned around to look at the nearly 2-meter-tall guy with huge muscles on his chest. He swallowed his saliva. In the end, he did not say anything. What was the connection between money and a one-on-one? He swallowed his words back down. Although he was unhappy, there was nothing he could do. The other party was rich and had special privileges. While he was unhappy, the other party had already started to talk. Inside the VIP room, there was a separate reception room. Tea was placed on the table and the chairs were all carved out of mahogany. The texture and feel of the chairs were very rich. This is the manager of Rain Tower. When the door opened, an old man walked in. This old man had heard that this young man, Li Zongjiu, used 100,000 gold yuan banknote as a bargaining chip. There were very few people who were so generous with their money. This was a really big business deal. Chapter 228. The Rain Tower was also divided into different levels. However, it was definitely not a simple matter to be able to attract a supervisor in this tower. Hello. You can just call me Old Cheng. When Supervisor Cheng walked in, he had an extremely warm smile on his face. His eyes were also sizing up Li Zongjiu. Although Li Zongjiu's clothes were simple and he did not wear any expensive accessories, he gave people a feeling of dominance when he sat on the chair. He was clearly an old general, a high and mighty king. How could such a young man exude such an aura? Old Cheng couldn't believe it either. At the same time, he also knew that Li Zongjiu's identity was definitely not simple. They had been dealing with intelligence all their lives. They could roughly see what kind of person he was and what kind of identity he had. The nobility and arrogance in his bones could not be concealed. I need a person's whereabouts. Li Zongjiu did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. It was really beneath his status to be polite to a supervisor in such a small place. Therefore, Li Zongjiu also directly told him about this matter. Who is it? Supervisor Cheng took out a pen and paper. He listened and recorded at the same time. Li Changjiang from the Li family of Luoxia City. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Luoxia City. Supervisor Cheng wrote on the paper. When he saw this name, he felt a little unfamiliar. However, he quickly recalled that Luoxia City was a very remote city. What kind of person could come from such a place? No problem. If the person is still in Dingquan province and is still alive, we will receive news in 2 days. Supervisor Cheng said. No matter who it was, no matter what the person's identity was, it was not important. The price of tracking the person's whereabouts was based on the degree of secrecy of the person's whereabouts. If the other party had an expert to help cover for him, or if there were some accidents in the process of tracking, the price would be different. I will stay in the city. If there is any news, inform me immediately. This is the deposit. Li Zhongjiu took out 10 banknotes worth 100,000 gold coins. This was 1,000,000 gold coins. Supervisor Chang's eyes lit up when he saw this. If this information couldn't be turned into reality and couldn't be exchanged with useful people, then it would just be a piece of information. Therefore, every supervisor had their own performance targets every month. These information had to be sold, but the real big business was very rare. Most of the time, it would become a place where people would search for their lover for many years, or where abducted children would come to look for their relatives after they grew up. How much money could these trivial matters earn? Although they were only looking for a person from Luoxia City, Supervisor Chang's many years of experience made him keenly sniff out that there must be some signs of making money. Perhaps there would be a lot more involved. The deposit rule had also been set by the Rain Pavilion. After all, no one was willing to make a losing deal. If you want to find someone, you have to pay the cost first. Otherwise, if you don't give me a single cent, how am I going to buy information? If you were looking for someone in Dinghuan province, the price would only be a little more than 1,000,000 gold coins. If you were looking for someone in Hua province, the price would be even more expensive. Usually, the price would be 4 or 5 times higher than the price. Don't worry, leave this to the Rain Pavilion. Li Zhongjiu stood up and left. He only stayed for a few minutes. Supervisor Cheng looked at the money in his hand and smacked his lips in satisfaction. Such a god of fortune, you should give me a few every month. But then, his eyes became sharp, and he entered an extremely professional state. Quickly go and investigate this person's whereabouts. Hurry. Yes, Supervisor. A few people took the note in Supervisor Chang's hand and went to investigate. Li Zhongjiu, on the other hand, found a place to stay. The most famous thing in Kang City was naturally Yuan Qi. After meditating on the bed for a while, he opened his eyes. It will take a long time for me to make a breakthrough in this state of cultivation. Li Zhongjiu also understood the power of these 2 Dragon Clan elemental arts. If it wasn't for some extreme circumstances, it would be impossible to cultivate them well. I wonder if there are any Yuan Qi auxiliary cultivation Yuan Qi. Li Zhongjiu thought. The price of auxiliary Yuan Qi depended on the situation. If it had an extremely powerful auxiliary effect, the price would even exceed that of an ordinary offensive Yuan Qi. In terms of essence artifacts, it was a huge category. However, in the end, it still had to return to the body. Therefore, the use of cultivation was the most important. Although he only meditated for a while, when he opened his eyes, it was already night time. He asked the owner of the inn. If he wanted to buy some genuine and high-quality Yuan Qi, he would have to go to a place called Golden Origin Street. This street was filled with shops that sold yuan tools. Moreover, the quality of the yuan tools was also passable. This was especially true for a few of the larger shops. The quality of the yuan tools was also guaranteed. However, the price of the yuan tools would be higher than other shops. Although the price was high, the yuan qi was used to fight to the death. No one would want the yuan qi in their hands to suddenly drop the chain when they were fighting for their lives. That would be equivalent to giving away one's life for nothing. If one wanted to find treasures, they would have to go in the opposite direction. About 20 streets away, there was a night market. There were all sorts of people there, and there might be some dirty goods. Although the origin of the goods was not clean, they were definitely very powerful. Of course, there were also shoddy goods. Everything depended on one's eyesight. If one was deceived, one could only say that one deserved it. There was no guarantee for anything here. One could choose not to believe a single word that the seller said. However, for an ordinary person, it was very difficult for them to have a firm will and resist such bewitching words. After Li Zhongjiu heard this, he directly walked towards the night market. Li Zongjiu knew very well what kind of goods the shops on Golden Origin Street had. Even if they had the best craftsmanship, there might not be anything that could satisfy Li Zongjiu. Therefore, Li Zongjiu also headed towards the night market to search. Perhaps there might be some unexpected gains and surprises. When Li Zongjiu walked past the 20 streets and arrived at the night market, he felt that the surrounding was filled with stalls. He could not help but think that it might be a mistake to come here. However, since he was already here, he might as well walk around first. Chapter 229. From the beginning to the end, it would take about an hour to walk. There were open stalls on both sides of the street. The stall owners would spread a blanket on the ground and place the items they wanted to sell on it. Then, they would wait for people to take the bait. Some of the more diligent ones would even shout loudly to sell their items. Fresh level 3 elemental beast egg. The elemental beast will hatch randomly. Come and grab it. First come, first served. 5 million gold coins for 1 egg. Once sold out. Top grade ores, fire crystals. Definitely first class goods. Come if you have good eyes. Shall buy, please take a detour. Bring your own price. Once sold out, leave. A mountain eagle feather arrow set. If you need it, hurry and take it away. Sharp weapon for killing. You will definitely die once you see blood. Killing without leaving a trace. There were all sorts of shouts. Li Zongjiu took a look at the elemental beast egg. How was it an elemental beast egg? It was obviously an ordinary elemental beast egg. However, the aura of level 3 elemental beasts had been integrated into the elemental beast egg. It made people feel that this thing was not simple. But in the end, whether it could hatch or not was a problem. With Li Zongjiu's eyesight, he could see through it at a glance. Other than that, those were fire crystal stones, and other random things. Most of them were fake. These people's forgery standards were top-notch. There were quite a few people who were interested. After all, they flattered that in the night market, everything was possible. However, they did not know that this possibility was so small that it could even be ignored. Because if you had a possibility, the other party might have already taken it away. What was left behind was only some impossible things. This was obviously Cheat Street. Just as Li Zongjiu was preparing to go back the way he came, Li Zongjiu suddenly felt that the elemental bead in his body seemed to be trembling slightly. Although the trembling was incomparably light and ordinary people might just treat it as a stomachache or an elemental energy fluctuation and ignore it. However, Li Zongjiu was very clear that the fluctuation came from within his body. There was something in the surroundings that made the elemental energy in his body interested. Li Zongjiu didn't know what other people's innate original spirits were like and what it felt like to possess them. However, Li Zongjiu knew that although he could control the power of the original spirit in his body, it had not completely integrated with him. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu also possessed the power of elemental soul, but the feeling between the two was different. The power of this origin spirit was formed by the sovereign dragon soul of his previous life, therefore, Li Zongjiu paid special attention to this. Even if there was the slightest movement, he would be aware of it. Not the 3 great origin spirits. Could it be that there's another origin spirit in my body? When Li Zongjiu's mind power swept past his own origin bead, he discovered that those 3 origin spirits were also incomparably calm, without any fluctuations appearing. It really is you, Dark Dragon Soul. The corners of Li Zongjiu's mouth curled into a cold smile. It was impossible for the Dark Dragon Soul to disappear into thin air. In the vicinity, there must be something that the Dark Dragon Soul was interested in. Therefore, the Dark Dragon Soul could not help but emit a trace of fluctuation. However, this trace of fluctuation was captured by Li Zongjiu. In the vicinity, there was something that the Dark Dragon Soul was interested in. Li Zongjiu looked around. In the end, he locked his gaze onto a stall in a dark corner. There were not many things placed on the stall. There was a piece of black opaque crystal that looked like a diamond. Although it looked bright and mysterious, in reality, this stone did not have any elemental energy fluctuations. Apart from looking good, there was nothing else about it. This kind of thing was usually placed here to deceive little children. Some people who wanted to find treasures would think that this stone was some kind of treasure. Just the radiance on the surface was already dazzling enough. It must be some kind of treasure. Other than that, there were a few old scrolls and a piece of parchment. As for the stall owner, his entire body was covered in a black robe. In addition to the darkness, he couldn't see anything clearly. He could only see a pair of eyes. In his eyes, there was a pure murderous aura. This murderous aura did not spread out. It was just as calm as a pool of spring water. However, if someone really provoked this person and triggered this murderous aura, it would be the birth of a disaster. It was this murderous aura that caused some people with good eyesight to not dare to step forward. How was this selling things? It was clearly buying one's life. After Li Zongjiu locked onto this stall, he strode over. Many people saw Li Zongjiu's actions and their eyes were filled with ridicule. They had already seen the people in this stall before. They knew how ruthless their methods were. Even the passers-by had to pay a painful price for their actions. When the stall owner saw someone approaching, he slowly closed his eyes. "Don't touch if you're not buying," the stall owner said indifferently. However, just as the stall owner finished speaking, he saw Li Zongjiu take the black crystal in his hand and carefully examine it. Obsidian crystal. There should be an extremely tyrannical dark flame energy hidden within. As long as you can break the defense on the surface, you will be able to draw out the energy within. The stall owner's voice sounded. Li Zongjiu did not care. Instead, he felt the vibration of the origin pearl in his body. Although the black dragon soul in the origin pearl was trying its best to suppress him, Li Zongjiu could clearly feel it. "Let's see where you can run to." Li Zongjiu's lips curled into a cold smile. The doubts that had been plaguing him for so long were finally solved. He originally thought that the black dragon soul was accidentally damaged during his transmigration. After all, anything could happen. However, it seemed that the energy was still in his body. It was just that the black dragon soul was good at hiding and hid itself. "How much?" Li Zongjiu asked. His tone was firm and decisive. Obviously, he was telling the stall owner that he wanted this item. After the stall owner heard this, he sneered in his heart. "You are the one who asked me to name a price. Since you can't wait, then this price, hee. 2. The stall owner stretched out 2 fingers and said indifferently. "Stop pretending to be mysterious. Speak human language." Li Zongjiu frowned. These people wanted to pretend to be profound in front of him. He, Li Zongjiu, was not a fool. He just did not want to waste time and energy. To him, there was no benefit in arguing with such people. The stall owner obviously did not expect to be choked by Li Zongjiu. However, he quickly regained his senses. 200 million gold coins in cash. Chapter 230. The 2 fingers were placed there as if he was provoking Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu's face immediately darkened. Although this was a night market, it felt more like a black market. In this black market, there were only benefits and no feelings. Therefore, it didn't matter if the price was a little higher. However, the person in front of him was clearly treating Li Zongjiu as a fat sheep to be slaughtered. "Since you have taken it, you have to buy it. If you dirty it, it will affect my second sale," the person said slowly. After he finished speaking, he raised his head and looked at Li Zongjiu. His eyes were full of threat. He was clearly threatening Li Zongjiu. At this moment, Li Zongjiu finally understood that this person was not selling at all. He was taking the opportunity to extort. So, you are here to extort me? Li Zongjiu said calmly. He looked at the person in front of him calmly, revealing a faint trace of murderous intent. Just this murderous intent alone was enough to make the stall owner's hair stand on end. He could not help but shiver. He looked at the young man in front of him and was puzzled. Who released the murderous intent? Could it be this young man in front of him? How could this be? This young man could not possibly have such a strong murderous intent. Hearing Li Zongjiu's words, the stall owner pointed to a small sign beside him. On it was written, "Do not touch if you don't buy." It meant that if you touched it, you had to buy it. Oh. Li Zongjiu said after glancing at it. Then, he stuffed it into his bosom. If you chase after me, I will kill you. Li Zongjiu stared into the stall owner's eyes and said indifferently. Originally, the stall owner wanted to laugh at this kid who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, when he saw Li Zongjiu's eyes, he froze on the spot. He opened his mouth but couldn't utter a single word. This kind of gaze seemed ordinary, but behind that gaze, there was an endless storm of slaughter brewing. The blood had already filled the stall owner's heart. Therefore, looking at this pair of eyes, it was an endless sea of blood. When he came back to his senses, he was already covered in cold sweat. Li Zongjiu's figure was already far away. The stall owner wanted to get up and chase after Li Zongjiu. After all, this arrogant young man actually took his things. This was robbery. How dare he rob in broad daylight? It was fine if he robbed others, but he dared to rob a cold-blooded killer. He had been in this business for many years and had used this kind of method to oppress countless people. Forcing them to hand over their money was a huge sum that no one could afford. That was why this kind of situation happened. Most importantly, the other party's strength was not as good as the stall owner in front of him. Even if he reported this to the city lord mansion, the city management office and so on, there was nothing they could do. It was written clearly on the note. It was just that the stall owner did not see it. Such an overbearing clause might be useless in other places, but here, it all depended on the stall owner's freedom. He wanted to get up and chase after this arrogant kid and take him down. However, he found that his body was already frozen on the spot. It was extremely difficult for him to get up. He could not stand at all. How is this possible? With just a glance, he was able to bring about such a serious threat. This caused the stall owner to be in disbelief. After thinking over and over again, he seemed to be struggling in his heart. Forget it. Anyway, that stone is not worth much. I admit defeat this time. In the end, with this thought, he temporarily released the pressure in his heart. If he really chased after him, he had a premonition that he would not be able to go home tonight. It was this crazy and terrifying premonition. The other party was just a teenager who looked not even 18 years old. He had been in this business for so many years, but in the end, he was still afraid of this kid. Phew. The stall owner gave up chasing and just sat on the spot. However, the moment he gave up chasing, he felt his whole body relax and no longer felt any pressure. Little did he know that the audacious stall owner could live until now because of Li Zongjiu's mercy. If it was the evil Lord Li Zongjiu in the past, when he found out that this kid dared to blackmail him, blood would definitely splatter everywhere. There was nothing to say about that. Otherwise, you would not know what it meant to be ruthless and not to be provoked. Li Zongjiu was such a ruthless existence. However, after being reborn in this life, Li Zongjiu had become much more refined. This was because he was no longer alone. He had the whole Li family behind him. If it was in the past, even if I am not your opponent now, I will just run away and hide to cultivate. When I am strong enough, I will come back and kill you. Some of the people who had set up stalls in the surroundings also looked at this scene in astonishment. One must know that the stall owner Li Zongjiu just went to was such a shameless scoundrel. In addition, with his own strength, it was possible for him to do anything. He actually let Li Zongjiu take away the items so easily. He did not dare to chase after him, as if he was frightened. This strange scene was a little shocking to ordinary people. Either the stall owner was strange, or there was something strange about this kid in front of them. In short, there was a dangerous aura around these two people. It was better not to provoke such an inexplicable person. Li Zongjiu walked all the way back to his inn. When he closed the door of his room, he also took out the black crystal in his hand. Then, let me see what you have in there. Li Zongjiu injected a surge of yuan power into the black crystal. Immediately, the black crystal began to heat up and shine. In just a moment, the surface of the black crystal seemed to be scorched, and the fragments kept peeling off. Just as he was about to touch the core, Li Zongjiu could clearly feel that the origin pearl in his body suddenly erupted with a dark aura. This dark energy instantly gushed out from the origin pearl and continuously devoured Li Zongjiu's body. The aura that suddenly erupted seemed to want to occupy Li Zongjiu's body. It directly emerged from his palms from within his body. This dark yuan power transformed into a furious dragon and directly pounced on the black crystal in his hand. Just as it was about to bite, it was a hand that was filled with terrifying essence energy, instantly grabbing the furious dragon formed by the darkness essence energy in his hand. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.